When you hear this, what do you feel? At IMAX, you'll feel transported by our unique sound system and crystal clear images. Like you're running across a desert planet or defending your city from a surprise invasion. With immersive IMAX sound and screens curved to show more, we take fans to the edge of their seats. Get tickets to Dune Part 2 now and experience it in IMAX's exclusive expanded aspect ratio.
Hey everyone, Trace here. Just a note about this episode, as we did have an issue with our audio files after we exported them. We cleaned them up as best we could, and the final track sounds mostly fine, but this is a case where you might hear our edits more than usual, as well as a few spots that might have an echo, and we apologize about that. But hey, shit happens, you know? But we thank you for your understanding, and now, on to the show.
We got some things to do now. Scooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now.
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking We Gotta Make Like Your Personality and Split. We're talking Darn Bush is yowling at me again. And we're talking, no, I'll give you cavities. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking, where's cookies?
I was wondering which of us was going to break out an impression first, so I'm glad it was you.
I cannot do the Scooby. I'm actually terrible at impressions, just like you are, Joe, so I don't know why we even try doing this anymore.
How dare. Tabitha! My Stephen King is great.
Okay, but mimicking Stephen King is not the same as mimicking like a cartoon character.
Okay, that is fair. That is fair.
Anyway, everyone, we are discussing, finally, as promised 2 years ago, we are discussing Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, for its 20th anniversary, which I feel old.
Sure, whatever.
But before we go any further into this, I do want to introduce our guest, because of course she is a returning guest from our first episode on the Scooby-Doo film. All right, everyone. She is the co-director of the upcoming horror anthology film Welcome Week, which is currently being shopped around on the festival circuit. You may also remember her from our first episode, again, on that first Scooby-Doo film. Please welcome back Cory McCullough, aka Gory.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
We are so excited to have you back. Honestly, it was Cory, literally at least once a week for the past 2 years, I have thought, oh my god, I can't wait till we do Scooby-Doo 2 with Cory again.
Oh my gosh.
I think we shut it down and just immediately said, okay, put it in the calendar 2 years from now, do it all again.
Yes. I'm so glad you guys asked me back. I love this movie. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Well, so I'm curious because I went back and I re-listened to our episode, and you and I both were talking about how we do prefer this movie to the first film, and I'm curious, do you still feel that way?
Oh no, okay. When I was a kid, the first film was definitely my preferred. I remember I would rent that out at Blockbuster every week to a point where nobody else.
No one could get their hands on it.
They were just going to give it to you, here, take it.
Yeah, literally. But I think, honestly, I don't know. I'm still debating because upon my rewatch right now, this one is so good. And I think the characters are so much more fleshed out. And I love seeing the classic monsters and getting to spot them from, older episodes.
Right.
I still think the first one has a special place in my heart. I don't know, though. It's very hard to pick a favorite.
No, I think that's totally fair. It's a thing where, again, y'all can go back and listen to that episode on the first time. I won't rehash everything, but because this was made with kids in mind, we weren't doing the whole Brady Bunch parody thing. Well, but then we're changing that like we did in the first movie. So I think this one is better at feeling like a live action version of the cartoon.
Yes.
But they're just both very different films. So I've kind of come around to where I like them equally for very different reasons.
Yeah.
That's a good way of approaching it, yeah.
Joe, I'm curious, though. This was your first time watching this movie. What did you think?
Here's the thing. I remember liking the first one, feeling slightly out of my depth, and I would say the same feeling persists here, where I watched it and I thought, this is fun. I don't think I'm going to put it into a regular rotation or anything, but I wasn't mad about having to watch it. I actually had a mostly good time. There's a couple of things that were just a little too kiddish for me, but overall, there was also some adult stuff that snuck in here, and I thought, okay, we've got some things to talk about. So yeah, I would say overall, I enjoyed this experience.
I'm really glad you said the darn bush is yelling at me again in your intro, because that's one of my favorite lines.
It's so out there.
It's so good.
Well, so Cory, because you said, you spent so much of your childhood renting the first movie over and over and over. So did you see this one in theaters? I know you were like, you were born in 2003, right?
Yes.
Oh, so I guess you probably didn't see this.
No.
You would have been one.
Not that I
1-year-old Cory.
Well, so, okay, did you have a similar experience then renting this movie, or was it always the first one?
Oh, I can't remember. I know I saw that. I think I might have seen this one before I saw the first movie, just like on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I was always watching TV as a kid. But I definitely remember seeing this and liking it. And because I had been such a huge Scooby-Doo fan before, like, it was really cool to see all of the classic villains in it and see them as live action. But I don't remember I don't think I rented that one out from Blockbuster.
Yeah, I really, really, really do like this movie, and I'm forever bummed that we'll never get the third movie that was going to be, which we absolutely will
There's
discuss
still time.
today. There's still time.
I don't know. I think James Gunn has tweeted out a couple of different points that he says, I think the ship has sailed. The live actors are too old.
Well,
No, they're not. That's the great thing, is they'll never be too old.
I mean, they all look really good for
They
being
do.
20 years older.
It's wild.
Whatever fountain of youth they're drinking. But okay. Well, I'll just jump into this production. Again, there's not really a ton here because this was pretty much a guarantee from the get-go. A sequel to 2002 Scooby-Doo was announced by WB president Dan Feldman the Monday after that first film opened.
Yeah, it's called Cha-Ching.
Yeah, that $54 million box office weekend. But again, you'll remember that we had a lot to say about that film and its troubled production. And if you don't remember, just go back and listen to it. This one seemed to be fine. Although I did find this little tidbit from an interview with Freddie Prinze Jr. It was an interview with Esquire from 2022. There's different ways this has been reported, because I even saw someone that was like, oh, Freddie Prinze Jr. was so gracious. He took a pay cut so his co-stars could have a bigger pay raise for the film. So, okay, the first film had a budget of $84 million. This one reportedly was $80 million, but I think it was originally going to be a lot higher. And there's a couple reasons for that. So, Prinze Jr. was asked to take a pay cut when the rest of the cast
Really?
wanted a raise for the second film.
That's crazy.
Weird.
So, this is a direct quote from Freddie Prinze Jr. I remember thinking, hold up, who's giving them the raise? Me or y'all? Like, we made you guys $750 million and you can't afford to pay them what I'm making on this? Screw that.
Facts.
Now, granted, he said $750 million. That first movie made $275 million worldwide, but I have to assume that he's including merchandising and stuff like that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Good for him, like, standing on business. Like, that's great. I can't believe they asked him to take a pay cut.
Well, okay, so here's the thing again. This is all in this Esquire piece. To get him to comply, the studio allegedly released Prinze Jr.'s salary in a magazine.
Oh, rude.
That's nasty.
So Freddie Prinze Jr. says, my ego was so angry. And so he decided he was done with the franchise. Over the years, his perspective of the project has shifted thanks to social media, people coming out saying they love this movie, and he can finally think of it as something that's meaningful to people and not just a cash grab. But he continues, all these people that had grown up loving these Scooby-Doo movies started reaching out. And then I got what I felt was a more accurate perspective on what that movie meant to people, because I was no longer viewing it through the lenses of the studio.
Oh, that's nice. Do we know how much Sarah was making? Because they were married at the time, weren't they?
What? No. Sorry. Yeah, yes, they were, but we don't know what they were making. And I mean, I'm sure I could have Googled, leaked Freddie Prinze Jr. salary. But
Yeah,
I don't
you do
know
that.
what
I'll look up the same thing only with nudes.
But okay, there's another reason why I think I know for a fact the budget was bigger than what they wound up with, but I don't know if the $80 million was the shrunken down budget or if it started as $80 million and they reduced it later. Because in doing more research, I learned there were actually many more monsters who were supposed to be in this film.
Oh,
we were wrong.
okay.
leading up to production, Warner Brothers cut the budget and they had to do a workaround. So, for example, Fred's motorcycle jousting match was supposed to be with the Headless Horseman with a pumpkin head and not with the Black Knight Ghost.
Oh, that would make more sense.
I would need that.
It would make a different sort of sense.
Yeah.
No, it would make more sense because, like, the original, I was like, when did he get a horse and a javelin? Like, he did not have that in the show.
Well, so Cory, and Joe, this will mean nothing to you, but Cory, you'll know this.
Say, I wouldn't know.
Other monsters who were meant to be in the film and had actual screen tests done with actors cast. I have pictures of this. There was even a promo book for the film release that had like the actual like the museum displays of these monsters.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Ooh. Okay, we'll post those on socials.
Yes, but we were gonna have Redbeard's ghost, the witch doctor, the ghost clown, and my personal favorite, the creeper. And
We missed the creeper.
oh, I love. We could have had the creeper.
The creeper 2 is like the most iconic. Like,
Dude, Jeepers, It's the Creeper is my favorite episode of the original Scooby-Doo cartoon.
like that they chose some of the other ones instead of him. You know what I mean?
You know, the 10,000 vote ghost I get, the tar monster I get, even though that CGI looks like shit. I think the zombie is such a... Oh, that's the other thing. So Christopher R. Sumpton was going to play the creeper, but when the creeper got ditched from the movie, they cast him as the vomiting zombie.
Oh. I mean, the zombie is really iconic, but not as iconic as the creeper. Like,
I know! And so... There is, so the deleted scenes in this movie aren't as plentiful as the ones from the first film, but there's a scene where it's when the Black Knight Ghost and the 10,000 Volt Ghost steal the rest of the costume. So it happens off screen in the final cut and we hear about it.
Right.
That is a deleted scene and you can see the full like creeper display in that deleted scene.
Does it look good?
Okay.
So, maybe that's why they got it.
No. So here's the thing with these costumes, you know, like we see the 10,000 Volt Ghost costume in the museum and then we see it, you know, when it's real as this thing. But I want to know how that costume for the 10,000 Volt Ghost worked because it doesn't look like you could move in it.
I mean, you don't. You CGI it.
yeah.
I know. But here's the thing, though. Apparently all those costumes that were on display in the Coulsonian Museum, they were you could, like, a person could get into them and wear them.
That's so cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know if this was going to be $100 million and they lowered it or if it was... Because the other thing is, I found reports of the budget where it was like, oh, the budget was anywhere from $25 million to $80 million. And I was like...
In what world does this movie get a $25 million budget after making $250 million, according to Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Nevertheless, because I remember when this got announced, it was like, oh yeah, we're going to bring back a bunch of monsters from the cartoon, and I was so excited. But yeah, it's like, oh, even the Ghost Clown, I feel like, is a really iconic episode, and I'm surprised we don't get that in here.
I know, and they brought in so many, like, not bad ones, just more obscure villains that I was that weren't from the original Scooby-Doo, so I was sort of like, why wouldn't you bring back the OGs?
Well, and Captain Cutler's ghost makes sense, because he was from the very, very, very first episode, but like, you know, also in this deleted scene where we see the creeper costume, we see the space coot costume, and I was like, Space Coot, man!
Forever angry about that because that was like, I don't know why I was like hyper fixated on that live action one for a while, but like it looked so cool.
It looked honestly the best out of all of the costume set pieces. And again, imagine how scary it would be hearing his laugh throughout this movie, right?
He's just so good. Like, I can't believe they passed that one up.
Okay, so I don't want to jump ahead in case we want to save the conversation for the end of the episode, but is it possible that they said, okay, we're going to cut the budget, whatever, but we've got the costumes, we've done the tests and so on, save it for the third film?
That doesn't seem likely, if only because I know what the plot of the third film was going to be.
Okay, in that case, let's put a pin in it and we'll circle back around.
The other thing, so again, there's not really much else with the production, but I did want to highlight production designer Bill Bowes. So he returns from the first film, and I didn't really mention him in that first episode, and I'm kind of surprised, because I think if you're going to really praise anything, if you're kind of like walking into this like, oh, this is a kid's movie, it's like stupid juvenile shit, but if you're going to praise something, I do think the production design of both of these movies is
so
unbelievable.
So
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, it feels like we cast an eye to the live action Flintstones movie and said, we can do better than that.
Exactly.
That's really impressive.
I mean, Old Man Wickles' mansion, I want to run around that place.
Yes. I was thinking that while I was watching it today.
theme park. I'm just putting it out into the world. How many people would go to the Scooby-Doo theme park?
I mean, we're still waiting for Spooky Island.
Right?
Truly.
But I just want to say, so Bill Bowes, he got his start working as an assistant art director for Tim Burton on films like Sleepy Hollow and Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
that makes sense.
This checks out.
His first film as production designer was Monkey Bone, which also tracks.
Right.
Then he did Scooby-Doo, and he's pretty much stayed with Raja Gosnell for most of his career. So he was the production designer on Beverly Hills Chihuahua. Cory, I know you love that movie.
Legendary.
Both Smurfs movies. And then the same year he did this movie, he was the assistant art director on Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. So,
yes. And that is a pretty good fucking type. Like, that is a calling card list of films in terms of production design.
100%. And I mean, we'll talk about it as we talk about all these sets, but this movie is so bright and colorful that it is very pleasing to my eyes.
No, it's so good. And it really hones in on like the old school colors and like creepy background paintings of the original Scooby-Doos. Like it captures the world so well.
I think the reason I actually ended up enjoying the set and the production more in this film, because there's a better variety compared to just the island that we were getting in the first film.
Right.
So it felt like there was more to look at. Like, my eyes were entertained constantly.
I mean, yeah, you got the museum. I want their adult clubhouse and their kid clubhouse like in my house right now.
Good. I realized that their clubhouse too. I don't know if you guys, when I was little, I was obsessed with this video game Scooby-Doo First Frights that came out a little bit after the movie. I was like, that clubhouse looks so familiar, and it's the same clubhouse that's in the video game.
Oh,
really?
That's really cool. See, I never had any of the console Scooby-Doo games. I had like the Game Boy Scooby-Doo games that came out, but never one of the consoles.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the cast also did most of their own stunts. I found and they talk about it in one of the featurettes, like Freddie Prinze Jr. did his motorcycle stunt, which is what he was really, really excited about.
Okay.
But then, they say they all did their own stunts, but then I see, Sarah Michelle Gellar, quote unquote, jump into the 10,000 Volgos innocent flying, and I was like,
absolutely not.
I don't know if that's Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Hey, that is Buffy, okay?
I was going to say, we're calling it the Buffy stunt double and saying, hey girl, I got some jobs for you.
Well, and that stunt double was in the first movie with all those wire foo scenes, but I think the fight scene with the Black Knight ghost in the mansion, I think that actually is Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, I believe that.
Could be. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this movie comes out on March 26th, 2004, a little less than 2 years after the release of the first film. Other new releases that weekend were the Coen Brothers' The Lady Killers, Kevin Smith's Jersey Girl, and the DMX starring movie Never Die Alone. And so its opening weekend, it placed first, and it grossed $29.4 million, which is a far cry from that first film's $54 million opening. However, Matthew Lillard does attribute this to the release date, as it wasn't in the summer like the first film was, and it was like a week or two after spring break.
Yeah, that's a terrible time to release it.
Especially when you know that they're aiming it more properly at like a younger audience this time. It doesn't make any sense.
Not at all. And hearing those stories about Freddie Prinze Jr. and also because apparently the bad critical reaction to this film was another factor in why a third film didn't get made. But I was like, but the first film
one doesn't have good reviews.
Yeah. Which is so wrong. Those reviews
okay,
are
that's
so
why we're
wrong.
here.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and that's I think most people, if they've seen one of these movies, they've seen the first one. I feel like the second one has far fewer fans, but not because it's not liked, because people didn't watch it when it came out.
Right. Yeah.
But it did, well, I say that, and then I'm about to say, it went on to gross $84 million domestically. And $97 million overseas for a worldwide total of $181 million. So that's about $90 million less than the first film's gross.
Damn.
But also, that's not that significant. Like, I feel as though if this film was being made even a decade later, we would look at that and say, yeah, you know what? We're okay taking a slight hit because we think long-term potential, a third film is going to bounce back up or something like that.
You would think so. I mean, again, I just wonder if the studio was like, fuck it, like, we're done with this franchise, like, we're over it.
I wonder, do you guys remember how it was marketed?
Oh, I didn't watch the trailer.
I mean, I remember the first time I saw a magazine article for it, Entertainment Weekly, because it had like all the monsters on it, and I was like, oh my god, it's so good! Me and my 13-year-old self. Wait, this is 2000? No, oh my god, I was 15 when this came out, sorry.
Same reaction. Exact same reaction.
I've seen photos online where they had like, it looked like trading cards of the monsters and stuff, and all of that looked so cool to me. But I wonder if
Yeah.
that was enough. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of a thing for me though. Like if I'm like really looking forward to a film, I don't even pay attention to the marketing because I'm already like, I'm gonna be there day one no matter what. So even when this movie came out, I remember I had my 7th period class was geometry. I was a freshman in high school. No, sophomore in high school. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Somebody cannot do math.
I know. But it was geometry. It wasn't math. It wasn't algebra. No, but I remember my mom was like, "Hey, do you want me to pick you up from school early and like skip your last period and we'll go see Scooby-Doo 2 together?" And I was like, "Yes."
Wow. That is a win for Mama Trace.
It really is. And so I was like, all day, I was like, yo, I can't, I have to get out of school. I have to leave school early to go see Scooby-Doo 2. This 15-year-old gay boy.
And if they didn't know before that,
Yeah.
they knew then.
Exactly. But critically, critics like this movie less than the first one, except for Roger Ebert. He gave this 2 stars, where he gave the first film a 1.
Wow.
What did
come
they
on.
want from a Scooby-Doo movie?
It sounds like they weren't fans.
Like, what did you expect from it? Like, what else could they have done?
Well,
Mhm.
okay, but I feel like that mindset, like, what did you expect from it? I feel like they expected this, and they didn't want this.
Okay.
You gave us what we expected, but we still didn't want it.
Somehow still disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah, on Rotten Tomatoes, we've got a 22% with an average rating of 4.3 out of 10, and it's got a 34 out of 100 on Metacritic. However, Letterboxd users have it at a 6.2 out of 10.
There we
so
go.
people like it.
It was homophobia that caused this film to be poorly reviewed.
Must
This is
be.
just like Jennifer's Body all over again. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Total crossover audience, right?
I mean, actually, when you look at it now, the audience that loves Scooby-Doo, the live actions, and the audience that is kind of reclaiming Jennifer's Body is...
Same people.
Well, you are talking about queers, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I saw like there's that tweet that went viral a while ago from our former guest David Opie, where he posted that cast image of this cast going, "Nothing made me bisexual except for the cast of the Scooby-Doo movies," and it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Cinema Score audiences did give this an A-.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, so the people who went to see it were recommending it. It's just that I think too many people felt either burned or kind of like what you said, Corey. The first one didn't give them what they were looking for or what they were expecting, so they just didn't come back.
Well, and I do wonder if they had made that first movie like this one where it was intended for the child audience through and through, like if that would have helped this movie more, or again, if we keep it in line with that first movie, we're still kind of doing this like 50-50 like adult kid split. But yeah, I wonder if any parents who took their kids to that first movie and were like, this is not appropriate for my kids, didn't take them to the second movie.
It is possible.
I wonder.
Now, this movie did win the Razzie Award for Worst Remake or Sequel in 2004. Actually, it was probably 2005 when they did the awards. I use awards in quotation marks. It beat out Alien vs. Predator, Anaconda's The Hunt for the Blood Orchid,
Oh my god.
Oh.
That's crazy.
Around the World in 80 Days, the Jackie Chan Disney remake,
Ugh.
and Rennie Harlin's Exorcist: The Beginning.
That is a weird competition right there.
Yeah.
I just, like, for me, I know we all hate the Razzies, whatever, but, like, even if I'm a voting member of the Razzies, I at least see passion in this film in a way that I don't see it in some of those other films that I just listed.
It's wild to me because to me this film is so good. Like genuinely, I think this film is really good. The direction is incredible. I think the writing is so clever and there's such a I mean, I appreciate this. There's such a deep understanding of Scooby-Doo and the entire Scooby-Doo universe.
Right, the material.
100%. And, I know y'all say, Joe, you said, like, James Gunn said the ship has sailed, but, like, it's just a thing where I'm like, but, like, I would, now that he's, like, at the head of DC, like, he's over there at Warner Brothers a lot, I'm sure. So I just want to, like, let him do a new one. It's fine.
No. Here's the thing, and I feel like I've said this before, but I'm just going to keep saying it as long as a certain person is in charge of WB. The likelihood is it would get greenlit, it would get made, and then it would become a tax write-off, much like the animated Scoob that we were all looking forward to at Christmas a couple of years ago.
Don't even get me started on that.
Oh my God. Because that was going to be a sequel to Scoob, right?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I hate him. It's not that I'm advocating for murder or anything like that. It's just I would like it if certain people would step down from their positions and let people who appreciate art to maybe make it.
Especially if it's like, I don't even think it was going to go to theaters. It was going to be a streaming release, I think. So it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? But anyway, so on to that canceled sequel. So the third film was planned while they were making this movie, and the kicker, James Gunn wasn't going to write it, but he was going to direct it. And so he was actually on set for most of the production of Scooby-Doo 2 because he was kind of apprenticing Raja Gosnell to learn more about film direction.
Wow, that's crazy to think about, him learning about film direction there.
It's wild. Well, because I know we had talked about like his work on Trauma and stuff in the last, but I couldn't remember. I was like, he didn't direct it. He just wrote those films. He didn't direct any of the films. So his directorial debut was Slither 2 years after this.
Yeah.
Oh,
fantastic film, by the way.
Oh, so good.
Fantastic film. Also flopped like you wouldn't believe. Yeah.
He is so misunderstood.
Until Gunn got into the superhero business, I felt like people really did not understand the types of films he was making.
And I will reiterate this, y'all. If y'all haven't seen his superhero film, Super, with Rainn Wilson and Elliot Page, big recommend on that, but it is very violent.
Yes.
So yeah, unfortunately, while Scooby-Doo 2 did well enough at the box office, it did not do well enough to justify a third film, and it was canceled. And I did find this in a since deleted tweet from James Gunn that was originally posted on April 1st, 2020. He was doing like, I guess, an Ask Me Anything, but like on Twitter. Someone said, what was the plot of Scooby-Doo 3? And he said, the plot was the Mystery Inc. gang are hired by a town in Scotland who complain they're being plagued by monsters, but we discover throughout the film that the monsters are actually the victims, and Scooby and Shaggy have to come to terms with their own prejudices and their narrow belief systems. And that sounds like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
I was about to say that's literally the plot of Zombie Island.
And I was just like, wait.
Which, like, is, to be fair, is a perfect film. And, like, if they just did that live action, I would be happy, but...
Ooh, I wonder if they were trying to move it away from some of the kind of caging caricatures that we talked about when we covered Zombie Island. Like, move it to Scotland, we can make fun of their accents much more easily.
Well, and because I think about this a lot, you know, again, like, you could make a perfect, like, gateway horror film via Scooby-Doo if you just do a live action adaptation of Zombie Island. However, I do wonder if the morphing of the cat creatures, maybe they're too scary, or the zombies themselves, like, in live action, might be more gross and, like, not kid-friendly, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I look at... I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to remember the different villains in this film unless I'm literally reading it from my notes. But there is that one zombie creature that you mentioned. And I think if they took that aesthetic, it would probably be fine. But, you know, if you took it a little too hard, that's proper scary horror.
That's kind of the fun of it, isn't it?
Well, and Cory, tell me if you disagree, but I think, because part of the reason why I like Zombie Island so much is because I do think it is the scariest of the Scooby-Doo movies, like anything I've seen.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the scariest, I'd say. We kind of get up there with some of the other, you know, 90s films, but I think the ones that are the scariest are when there are real monsters, and we started to see that trend a lot in specifically the 90s Scooby-Doo movies. Which is what I think is so interesting about this movie is I think James Gunn was really pulling from that idea that, like, in the movies, the monsters are real.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we see that in the first live action Scooby-Doo as well. Like, there was definitely a trend in Scooby-Doo that was becoming more popular where the monsters were actual monsters and just kind of being controlled by somebody.
And I miss those days.
Yes. We all do.
It was 20 years ago.
Oh my God, stop.
I wasn't even alive for it and I miss it.
Anyway, so yeah, that's really all I have about this movie. So let's talk about the brilliance of the plot.
Okay, here we go. So the film begins as entertainment reporter Pat O'Brien introduces Mystery Inc. They are arriving in a stretch limo version of their Scooby van at the pool. So I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best.
The Scooby van.
Fine, what's it called? What's it called then?
The Mystery Machine. It's written on the door.
Fine, you know what? Next time, you get to do the plot. Hey, ride in the Scooby van. at the Coulsonian Criminology Museum. And okay, so we talked about the production design right away. The film is only just opened, and I want to go to this museum exhibit.
It's the coolest ever.
Well, and honestly, it's kind of a thing where, and I would, this Blu-ray is not as stacked as the first film is, but I would have loved like a virtual tour of this museum, a la, like that bonus feature that we always talk about in the 13 Ghosts DVD, where it's like, oh, we're doing like a tour of all the ghosts. I would have loved that with the monsters for this movie.
That would have been, honestly, it would be such a good addition to like, if they did do a ride, that would be such a perfect walkthrough, or anything at like a Universal Park or something.
Well, the opening credits of this movie are basically a 4D Universal ride.
Exactly.
Truly. Yeah.
No, like all of the resources are there.
Mm-hmm. We've already given them the code.
Yeah,
they just have to follow
there is a Scooby-Doo ride from the first movie in, I believe, Australia.
Oh, that would make sense because they filmed the first one in Australia.
Yeah, that uses that. If you remember, they went in Spooky Island, they go on this like abandoned roller coaster ride thing, and it's like that. It's really cool. But like we could easily have that here.
Now they did film this one in Vancouver instead of Australia.
So where's the Vancouver part?
I was gonna say that shit got turned down the day after this production ended so that we could put up Supernatural season whatever.
When you think about it, Supernatural and Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo is kind of the OG.
I feel like there is a crossover.
There is.
There is a crossover episode, actually.
And honestly, because I watched most of that first season of Supernatural when it originally aired, but like I was busy with high school shit, so I never continued it. But my mom and sister loved that show. But you better believe when that Scooby-Doo crossover came out, my sister was like, you better watch this shit. And I did, and it's great.
Why does it sound so threatening? You better watch that. Watch that crossover, I'll kill you.
I mean, I've talked about this before, but my sister's not a huge horror fan. She's better in it now, but like Supernatural is like her flavor of horror, you know?
Sure.
And she always kept trying to get me to watch it. But every time I was like, oh, there's so many seasons already.
I mean, that is fair. Anytime I look at a show and it has more than 5 seasons, I'm so reticent to jump on board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But one day I will watch all 25 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. It'll happen. I've seen 10 of them.
Okay. All right.
Joe, what do you think of the costumes of this movie?
They're very vivid, very bright. I was trying to keep track of how many times we're switching, but it just became overwhelming. I think every new scene, they are in a different variation of their traditional color scheme.
Yes. And can I just say, one of my favorite things about the costumes in this movie is how Fred and Daphne have t-shirts with them on them. Daphne fully wears this like shirt with her face on it, and Fred wears like multiple shirts that say like Fred Jones Detective, Mystery Inc. Like they were like, I know one thing about these characters and it's their name. And they were like, let's just throw that on their shirt.
I just liked it because I feel like in the first movie, we only have like maybe 2, maybe 3 costumes for each person because we have like their generic like standard costume. Like, then you get like Velma's cleavage shirt in the middle of the movie, and then maybe they change again into beachwear. But this one, I was like, oh, we're going all out.
Yeah.
Like Daphne's purple feather outfit. Like what?
I would literally I would pay to see a movie where it's just Daphne like trying on outfits. Like she serves every time.
You know what? We've got Alicia Silverstone in this movie, so just put her into Cher's wardrobe construction thing from Clueless, where it's just the Daphne outfit machine.
I love it.
So speaking of our characters, they pile out of the mystery machine. And I do love that one of the first things that we see, so they're walking the red carpet because it's their exhibit. It's all of the villains that they have unmasked, and they've just each got this crowd of groupies waiting for them on the red carpet. And the jokes are flying pretty quick here, and some of them are very lowbrow, like the dogs who are, like sniff my butt to Scooby. But then we also have, like the cadre of lesbians who are waiting for Velma. And
I was going to say, I wrote in my notes, like, we've got a bunch of nerdy lesbians.
Wait, and they have these t-shirts with, like, the worst photo of Velma you'll ever see on them that says, like, the Dinkley Brigade. They're so cute.
Very cute, yeah. And then, of course, we have creepy white men who have tattooed Daphne on their chest.
I think Daphne should have had, like, a slew of like, women, too.
Yes. Yes. Like, it wasn't just creepy men.
Yeah.
high femme lesbians, right?
Yes.
Very much so. Also, the Daphne that's on their chest is like her image from the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it? Okay. I was surprised that they each had different tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This also could be a rumor, but I believe James Gunn said that when he was writing the first one, it was originally going to be either PG-13 or R, and he wanted to make Velma a lesbian, didn't he?
Yeah, 100%. And it's a thing where it was there in the script, it was ambiguous in the shoot, and then it was erased in the final cut, and then in this one we get a boyfriend for her.
That's homophobia.
Okay.
Like, that's erasure.
Yeah.
I can't believe they did that to us.
I feel, obviously, we talked a lot about the Velma and the erasure and all that kind of stuff in the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I went into this because I saw that tweet, I saw that quote where I was like, and then she gets a boyfriend in this movie. I have a lot to say about this in this film because I thought that it was going to be like, we're not suggesting anything at all. And as I said, even from this opening scene, it feels like there's still a wink, wink, nudge, nudge that Velma is still totally a lesbian. And I have a couple of different points where I'm going to bring it up, but she still felt very gay to me.
I wonder if that's too when they're filming it. I mean, again, James Gunn is on the set, so I wonder if he's like, look, Linda, you're a lesbian.
I need you to embrace this.
I feel like Linda would be down for that.
She is. She's on record as saying she's very pro-gay Velma.
Yes.
I mean, she is the voice of Velma's love interest in Mystery Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
Hot dog water.
Hot dog water. So, Cory, I've actually, the one question I wanted to ask you coming into this was, did you watch the Mindy Kaling sitcom Velma that's on HBO Max?
Oh.
I began it. I have watched some of it, yes.
That good, huh?
It was different.
It is different. I did finish it. It's a show where I walked in, I heard about how bad it was. I think I watched it probably like 2 or 3 months after it actually aired because I was so tired of seeing people like trash on it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was won over by the end. It still has a lot of work to do. Like some of that humor is very, very try hard, and Velma herself is arguably the worst character on that show.
No.
Right.
But I think when it works, it really, really, really. I know a lot of people had issues with Glenn Howerton's Fred being like a sex fiend, but I was like, I thought the jokes about Fred were really funny.
I think my main issue with it is I don't think Scooby-Doo works if it's not focused on Scooby and Shaggy. I think like there's definitely a move by a lot of people to want to make spin-offs that focus more on like Fred, Daphne, or Velma, but I think sort of the heart of it is that they're a group and that like Scooby and Shaggy are the main characters.
Well, I think I think this is the first time we've had an R-rated version of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
It is very
Besides
much trying...
the comics, right?
Yeah, exactly. But we're trying to do the Harley Quinn, like we're trying to replicate that success of the Harley Quinn cartoon, and that show is amazing
So
and
good.
not try hard. Whereas, again, it's hit or miss. So I it's probably like a solid B- C+ for me, a season of television.
Yeah.
But when I liked it, and so I enjoyed it enough by the end to be like, yeah, I would recommend that with several caveats.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that was my diversion.
I remember not like thinking it was bad. I don't know if it was for me, you know what I mean?
I just think it got better as it went on. So if you only watch like 2 or 3 episodes, I would say just I mean, again, they're 30-minute cartoon episodes.
Okay, so the other character that we've not mentioned thus far that we are seeing at this point is the Taco Bell KFC product placement, which is egregious and not very well incorporated.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice it.
It's not Mystery Incorporated, we'll put it that way.
I did not even notice that. I'm so bad at spotting product placement. Like, I'm genuinely bad at it. So I didn't even know that was a thing in this movie.
Oh my God, Trace.
As a diehard Taco Bell fan, like I fully support that.
Well, I was going to bring it up, Cory, when you said, how was this marketed? Because I figured, oh, well, we must have been doing commercials because it is all over this film.
Yeah. I wish Taco Bell had given them a little more money. Damn. They could have paid Freddie.
Yeah. I mean, I think all the money went to the sets and the costumes.
Which are incredible. Like, especially that scene with the ghost ship going through traffic was so crazy.
It's so
wild.
Good.
But it's also wild that that's all we get of that. I thought, oh, this must be where the final set piece is. No, sorry, we're going back to the mine. Okay, never mind.
You know what? I would not be surprised if the original script for this was had a climax that took
Bigger.
place more in the city, or there was a bigger
Yeah.
set piece in Coolsville.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual new humans who are introduced in this film. So,
Mhm.
obviously, I need to prioritize reporter Heather Jasper Howe, who is played by Alicia Silverstone. It doesn't take, a clairvoyant and a crystal ball to figure out that she's the villain right from the get-go, but
Yeah.
still, I really enjoyed her. I would have taken quite a bit more of this character in the film.
She's amazing.
Yeah, it feels, because they really kind of hone in on that rivalry between her and Daphne. I'm glad they don't do like a love triangle thing with them and
Thank
Fred.
God.
I
Yeah.
mean, obviously they can't, because spoiler alert, Heather Jasper Howe is a man in a mask. But it's a thing where I actually find the scenes with Alicia Silverstone like some of the best in the movie, if only because I like seeing someone this bitchy in the Scooby-Doo universe.
Absolutely. And she feels world appropriate still.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. I know that this movie has had such an impact on me because every time I see Alicia Silverstone in anything else, I am 100% sure she's going to be a villain. And it doesn't matter how many movies of hers that I watch, I will never trust that woman.
Which is funny because she's like,
Love it.
well, I was gonna say, I guess she's never the villain, but I guess she's the villain in like
That's
the
the
Crush.
thing. Is like in every other piece of media, she's so great and she's so nice. But in the back of my mind, I just know that like
It's
she
Heather
wronged
Jasper
the
Howe.
Scooby-Doo.
I love that. I love that trajectory because I feel like so few other people would ever have it.
I have that same problem with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Mm,
If you guys have ever seen
Sky High.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
She will never be a hero to me. Ever.
Well, that's just wrong. But
I'm sorry.
but yeah, I at least also do like the little bit of commentary that James Gunn tries to make with the media here, because it shows how Heather Jasper Howe like manipulates the quotes by pulling them out of context with Fred.
Oh, it's so good. And she's so good at it. Like, I cheer her on.
It's also that Fred is very bad. He needs media training. Toot sweet.
Lil O'Coolsville can solve its problems without us.
I mean, it's okay. He's got this adorable hair, question mark.
I
going on.
love his hair.
Okay, Cory, Joe messaged me last night and was like, is Freddy's hair worse in this movie? And I was like, yeah, it is. But my rebuttal was Sarah Michelle Gellar's hair is better in this movie.
The trade-off.
I like his, I mean, like, obviously, I think I'm coming at it from a Gen Z perspective, but anytime I see that, I'm like, oh, it's so 2000s. It's so vintage. Like, I love it.
But like Fred never had that hair. Fred has like a very nice styled haircut. But
I know, but they really changed Fred's character in these live action movies.
Yeah.
And they make him
yeah.
sort of like a surfer guy, like kind of dumb, which he's not usually. And so I think because of that, they kind of made him a little shaggier.
Isn't that interesting though? Because I feel like, I mean, not just in that Velma cartoon, but also in Mystery Incorporated, they make him kind of a dunce.
I think it's because of these movies, because there is a clear line that we see of all of the characters change. But
Yes,
like Daphne starts getting really good at karate and stuff. Like there's that there's just a trajectory that these films had a huge impact on Scooby-Doo as it went on.
Which is so fascinating, right? Because when you look at how film versions of comic books, like superhero films, will also have that same trajectory where if they succeed on the big screen, sometimes we'll change them on the page. So I love this idea that, oh, well, Mystery Incorporated is really just a version of superheroes.
Yeah, no, totally. And they actually, DC Comics, I believe, does have Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, which is like a Scooby-Doo superhero R-rated comic. And I'm always
Making a
curious
note.
if James Gunn would ever do something with that.
Oh.
You know what? Let's just keep putting this out into the
It's like the
universe.
weirdest comic ever, but like he would eat. You know what I mean?
Oh my god! Oh yeah, oh my god! I'm looking
Shaggy
at like
is
the cover.
like, yeah, no, it's crazy. Shaggy's like super buff, like it's all weird.
Yeah, Scooby's
People
got like
die,
a robot
like-
cyber eye.
It's a scary comic.
Oh my god! I'm really excited. I'm gonna buy this.
Okay, come back.
I'm back.
Okay, the other person monitoring this red carpet is old man Jeremiah Wickles. He is played by Peter Boyle, and he will come back into play in a bit.
I love that he did this movie. Like, I mean, like, he's obviously a very established, famous actor. I mainly only know him from Everybody Loves Raymond, but he's so delightful in this movie.
He is so good. He looks like a Scooby-Doo villain. Like he really has the full look for it. He's perfect.
What'd you do with my toilet brush?
Even at just this introduction, right, where he doesn't have a line. He's just there watching them ominously, and you think, yeah, you're right. He looks like a live-action Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah.
Like, they could not have cast someone better.
I will say, so like all the monsters we have in this museum, most of them are from like the regular Scooby-Doo cartoons, but when Velma makes this joke about Chickenstein, that is pup named Scooby-Doo representation, and I am here for it.
Same. Justice for pup named Scooby-Doo. We do not talk about it enough.
I'm a little bummed we don't have an adult red herring in this movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. That would be, okay, if there's ever a third or ever another... God, that would be so good.
Or like if Heather Jasper Howe was red herring in disguise.
Yes. Or honestly, like if she were just a ginger, I would be like, that's enough.
That's enough.
That's so funny. Or what's it? Right. Jacob or John Jacoby or whatever his name is takes off his mask.
Right.
Yes.
Triple mask reveal.
Oh
that's my fan theory now.
Yep.
There we go. So we go into this museum, we get a bit of a guided tour. I'm sure any fans will be picking out the Easter eggs. For me, it just looks cool. And then we are introduced to Velma's quote-unquote love interest in a slow-mo, clumsy fall. And of course, this is Patrick Wisely, the museum curator, who is played by Seth Green. And you have to assume that this is a Buffy connection where Sarah Michelle Gellar said, you know what? I think I've got somebody who's perfect for this.
I mean, I think that's this whole crew, Like Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard had been in like 4 movies together before that first Scooby-Doo movie. Mm-hmm. We have Freddie and Sarah Michelle Gellar and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Seth Green was in Without a Paddle with Matthew Lillard. So like,
right.
They all like. I just feel like this is that's I think why like the real life friendships of these people like come through the screen in this movie for me.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Linda Cardellini is also here.
Okay, but like her.
She wasn't doing a lot of movies at this time, admittedly.
Yeah, but because she was doing ER by this point, I think, actually. But yeah. I love her line delivery of "Mystery is my mistress. I must heed her sweet call."
See, to me, that was an immediate lesbian kind of coding where, like, she's heeding the call of a siren mistress. It's not, mystery is my mister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and so that's the thing, and I agree with what you're saying, Joe. This is absolutely queer erasure. I actually do think Seth Green is very funny in this movie. I also would have taken more of him. Mm-hmm. I just wish he wasn't positioned as Velma's love interest.
Sure.
I mean, I guess we could come at it from an angle of her being bisexual in these films, too.
Yes.
Like, her liking him doesn't necessarily mean she's not queer. Or she could like him and just be in the closet, she doesn't know.
Did they kiss at the end of this movie?
I don't believe so.
I think they're just dancing together.
So that's the other thing, though. So, he's positioned again, the only like big romance in the film is for Velma, whereas in that first movie it was Shaggy and Mary Jane. But I don't really even think it pays off by the end of the movie, at least in terms of the romance part.
I mean, they like agree to go out, right? But that's sort of it.
Yeah. And you could say that this is more appropriate for a younger audience where we're not going to show them kiss.
But we will put Velma in a red leather suit and have her say, "Who's your mommy?"
Right?
Yeah. And this is where I think the fine line of who is this movie actually for, because I do find there's some really adult-oriented humor in here.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that this is very savvy casting, if for no other reason, particularly from a queer lens. I'll give Cracked.com the shout out for this joke, but basically having Seth Green come in and be the love interest for a queer woman, like he's just playing a type now.
It's typecasting. Oh, you know what? Maybe that was intentional.
Maybe. He turns all the women gay.
Oh, you know what? Joe, I can't believe I didn't even think about that, but that will be my read for this entire relationship then.
Okay, so let's get to the action because it's been 5 minutes and we need a big sequence. So we've got a giant window that explodes during the storm and some green mist that animates, and suddenly the pterodactyl ghost comes alive and Scooby and Shaggy are being dragged along by a rope for the ride. This
feels like a cartoon come to life.
Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Flintstones movie, Joe, because even though, yes, that movie movie is critically panned. Again, the production design, like it feels like a Flintstones cartoon come to life, and I feel the same way about this. And I mean, when they're being dragged across the banquet, like it's so good.
I think that's what I love about these movies so much, is that it really does just feel like you're watching the cartoon. And they even throw some of the older sound effects in there. Like, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yes. There are way more of the cartoon sound effects in this movie than there were in the first movie. And so I think that really, really does help.
I was
with the
so
atmosphere.
glad to see that.
Yeah.
I also feel like even though some of the CGI in this movie is definitely janky, very 2004,
right?
They've done work on Scooby, so he seems to fit into the world better. But then you still get these really highly animated moments, like when he's being dragged across the table and he keeps getting his head stuck in different shaped containers. It just looks so good and it's so funny. It's just a very satisfying gag.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm glad. I'm actually really glad you were the one to point that out, Joe, because watching this, I was like, I mean, granted, I didn't rewatch the first one to prep for this, but I was like, I feel like this Scooby does look a lot better. He's more emotive. He doesn't look kind of alien. But on that note, though, I feel like we should give. I mean, we praised Matthew Lillard up the wazoo in that last episode, but he's acting with a fucking nothing for most of this movie.
I really, especially this one, more so than the last one, I think, like, I could not get over how he was doing that.
Well, because I think there's more gags with just Shaggy and Scooby doing cartoon style, like,
but they're physical, like they're interacting a lot.
Yeah, I was like, this is really impressive, honestly. So
I really believe that he's best friends with that CGI dog.
Yes,
like, honest to God.
He honestly, like, the fact that he got no recognition for that too, like, he deserves an Oscar for that alone. Like, that is such crazy acting.
I mean, there should be an award for, like, best acting with nothing.
It really is a testament to his talent, though. Like, he's so good.
What's interesting, on my YA podcast, I recently learned that there's a literary award that goes back and recognizes young adult fiction from 20 years ago. So it's like, we fucked up and missed this the first time around.
We need that.
And I do think that we should have, like, film awards that recognize, hey, we either slept on this film, we didn't appreciate it, that performance went unrecognized. Like, because you're not wrong. Like, Matthew Lillard is doing everything in these two movies. And sure, he got a lot of praise, but it was, he's the best thing of these movies nobody likes. And
right.
Like, well, that's two things that's wrong.
And, I mean, granted, we should point out, he does go on to voice Shaggy in pretty much every animated Scooby-Doo from here on out. But at the same time, it's like, I want more for this man.
Yeah. Well, I still want him to keep voicing these movies, like,
well, yeah.
That is very important to me. But, like,
more on top of it, yeah.
He deserves, like, his moment, some more critical acclaim, I think.
Even the way that audiences responded to him when he showed up in Five Nights at Freddy's, which was an abysmal fucking movie. But as soon as he shows up, everybody thinks, oh, okay, immediately this movie just got better.
Yeah. No, everybody loves him. Like, I feel like he could have like a Brendan Fraser moment where he gets like some film that really rockets him into being more respected.
Brendan Fraser's a good comparison to it, only because both of them, as human beings, are so fucking nice.
Yeah.
Like,
Genuine.
I have not had the pleasure of meeting Brendan Fraser, but I have met Matthew Lillard, and granted, it was a convention, but, like, at a convention, like, sometimes those people can be like, it's just a gig
sour
for them. Yeah.
He gives you like a hug and like, yeah.
So when there was a line for his photo op, because it was for Scream, and there was like a holdup or a technical issue, so he literally went down the line of people and just started talking to everyone in line.
Wow.
And I was like, you don't have to do this. Thank you so much. Like,
he's
good for
so
you.
cool.
Yeah.
Lovely. So, my first criticism of this film, we're introduced to the evil masked figure. This character looks great. He's scary. He doesn't show up enough. Why doesn't he get a fucking name?
Agreed.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And to the point where I was like, what do we call this person? And it's literally evil masked figure.
Well, it's really weird too, because like a lot of Scooby-Doo villains, almost all of them get something a little funky,
Well, and because it's so funny that they were going to include the witch doctor as one of the villains in this movie, because he looks like a more metallic-y, futuristic witch doctor.
I'm kind of glad they didn't put the witch doctor in because I think that would have soured the movie for me a little.
It might have been a little racist, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we should move on from that one.
Put that one to bed. We've still got it if we want to revisit it, but maybe not in contemporary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he does totally look like the witch doctor. He's got a really cool design.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
Oh, fuck. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to correct myself. The first episode of Scooby-Doo was not Captain Cutler's ghost. It was the Black Knight ghost. I don't know why I said that.
Okay.
Captain Cutler comes soon after. I think it's the second.
I think he might.
Third.
Yeah, because that episode is a clue for Scooby-Doo, and I think it's episode 2.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Okay, yeah. So the evil mask figure calls out Mystery Inc. and basically challenges them, says, you know what, I'm going to be doing the unmasking of you. And then the pterodactyl flies him away, and we've stolen 2 of the costumes.
Okay, so there are brief moments in this movie where the monsters have kind of a personality. I love when they try to trap the pterodactyl ghost, and when the ropes fall, like it's got its like arms crossed and like a smirk on its face.
A smirk, a full-on smirk. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, I almost wish that we were doing a little bit more of that. Like, I would say the Black Knight has a good amount of personality, particularly in the way they animate the face when he's speaking. But some of these other villains, I'm like, I mean, I wonder how much of it was, oh, well, we can't do too much with the tar monster because we just have to animate.
Well, apparently the CGI for the tar monster was the most expensive part of this movie.
Why even include him then?
I know.
Because if not, we don't get the great surfing scene.
That is true. That's the other one, though, is when the pterodactyl ghost flies into the tar monster in the climax, and it makes that fart sound. But then the tar monster, like, looks at the camera.
Oh my God. So many silly things.
I will say, like, I think one of my biggest gripes with this movie when I was a kid is how they did bring some of these villains to life, and I was like, oh, that's not what the Minor 49er looks like. Like, that's not what I think they would look like in my mind.
And that was a second draft of the Minor 49er, because again, if you go look at, and we'll post them, if you look at some of the other pictures of like what the test screenings, not the test screenings, but the test like makeup test they were doing for it, they had another design first.
Okay.
Because I didn't like him. I was like, he looks different than that. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, because Minor 49er, I think, also looks very similar-ish, or at least he's a similar body type to Redbeard, which I think is maybe why they got rid of Redbeard. But I would rather have Redbeard than Minor 49er, but we have the mind setting here, so...
Yeah.
Well, they just sort of made him... He gave, like, pirate vibes to me, and I was like...
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
And that's why Redbeard would make a better fit.
Yeah, exactly. And they have that ghost ship.
Yeah.
It's a little confusing, admittedly. Okay, so Velma does discover a scale that she's going to take with her as a clue, and this is when we get Heather Jasper Howe more or less publicly blaming them, shaming them, naming them on TV, and we are using Fred's quote out of context.
You're trying to make a thing. I think Coolsville sucks.
Poor Fred. He's so stupid in this movie.
So hot, but so dumb.
And that's what's, because that quote from his interview where he's like, he was done with the franchise after that salary dispute. And so I also wonder if that was part of the reason why I throw in to get made, because again, those were his words. I was done with the franchise. And that's just a bummer.
I mean, shades of Nev Campbell.
Yeah.
Okay, so we retire back to the house, the lab. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think this actually exists in the cartoons, does it, Cory? Their adult clubhouse with the enormous living room.
It doesn't, but it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
No, I am obsessed with it. Of course, they have a conversation pit. It's perfect. I think the only thing I would prefer is if their colors were green and purple rather than like blue and orange, but I get why they chose those ones. So,
do they all live there?
Good question. We don't know. We never see them sleep. We don't see bedrooms.
I mean, at least they are established as being adults in this movie and not teenagers. Right.
I was really glad that they did that too.
Well, because if not, it's just like you're always left wondering, well, where are the parents then? You know, how are they affording things. So it's just better to say,
Mystery
we'll
Inc.
show you
answers
them
that.
as teenagers.
Oh yeah, Mystery Incorporated has
parents
the
are
parents.
crazy.
Casey Kasem plays Shaggy's dad in Mystery
Yes,
Inc. But like
it's really cool.
Gary Cole plays Fred's dad. Like
Oh.
they get a lot of really famous people for the parents in Mystery Inc. But I feel like the parents are in a putt named Scooby-Doo, but maybe they're never seen.
Like Peanuts?
Maybe like I feel like we hear about them.
Yeah.
Because they're never addressed when they're teenagers, but in a pup named Scooby-Doo when they're like preteens.
When they have to have parents, basically.
Right. They're too young to just be out on their own.
Trace, have you ever seen the Cartoon Network like made for TV live action Scooby-Doos they did after these?
Oh, no, I know what because they had like a Daphne and Velma one. They had, Robbie Amell was Fred in one of them, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
Haley Kiyoko?
Yes, because she was
You
Velma.
want to talk about a gay
Mhm.
Velma, by the way?
I was
There
going to
we
say.
go. Well, played by an actual queer actor for a change.
Yeah.
So those movies are actually like so good.
Oh, okay. You know what? Good to know. I actually never saw them. They came out when I was working at Blockbuster when I was in college, and I was like, these straight-to-video live-action Scooby-Doo movies. I want my Scooby-Doo 3.
Wow.
I know. But no, I'll give them a watch.
There are a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I grew up watching them, but I really like them.
It's hard to make me angry when it comes to Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. So now that we're at home, we're talking about the evening, we're unpacking things, nobody's very happy, and this is when Scooby and Shaggy overhear Fred calling them screw-ups. By the way, Fred, dick move. Everybody contributed to this failure.
And also, like, again, one of the main gripes that I have with the James Gunn movies is that he makes Fred's character like this, because, like, he would never do this in the animated version. Like, he makes him stupid and he makes him kind of mean, and it's just like...
But he's not intentionally mean.
Yeah. It's because he's stupid.
But that's also, I mean, look, I love the resolution with this, with Velma giving them, like, I always thought you guys were the heroes. I was jealous of you. And I was like, okay, but that doesn't really line up with what was happening in the first act of this movie.
Yeah.
No. You know what? She says it when it's important and when it matters the most.
But she wasn't standing on business, and that's what I don't like.
Yeah. It's a retcon. In hindsight, I was with you the whole time. So, anyway, Scooby and Shaggy decide that they are going to become serious investigators like the others. One of my original opening quotes for the episode was going to be Shaggy's whole line about how they were going to stop being loserific and so on.
Spectacular.
The gibberish is very amusing. Yeah.
I will say, so this particular scene, this is an urban legend, but I can confirm it's true because I 100% saw this. So the way they get out of this, is they pretend that Scooby has rabies by feeding Scooby a can of whipped cream.
Mm-hmm.
In the theatrical, if you saw this in theaters, there's a bit after he sprays Scooby's mouth with whipped cream where Shaggy does a whip it and gets a little bit high. And that is not in any home video release of this movie, but apparently the German DVD has this scene intact.
German listeners,
We have to find this.
let us know.
And it used to be on YouTube, because I definitely saw it. 'Cause it was one of those things where I was like, maybe I just imagined that, because I was 20 years ago seeing this movie.
We talked about this last time. I remember this conversation from 2 fucking years ago.
Yeah, and so this is 100% like he gives Scooby rabies, and then he goes, and then he's like, ooh.
God.
Parents didn't like that, I guess. So they removed that from all physical media releases of this movie.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're testing this pterodactyl scale and we discover, ooh, this is not a costume, this is real. So we hone in on Dr. Jonathan Jacobo, who is played by Tim Blake Nelson.
Right?
Which is another we're casting serious character actors in this movie in dumb, silly little roles.
Okay, but his delivery of "help me, suckers."
It's so good.
When he didn't get struck by lightning, though, I was mad.
Oh, yeah. He's like flying out in a full storm.
Guys, he's just that good of a scientist. He knew.
Truly.
Obvious.
Yeah.
Well, actually, my favorite thing is when they're telling the story of Jonathan Jacobo. So, because we see the monsters, we see the costumes, right? But we never see what they look like like with a human inside of them. And I really appreciate that we get to see Tim Blake Nelson in this pterodactyl costume.
Yes.
But then you're kind of like, that clearly looks like a man in a pterodactyl costume.
Really not convincing at all. This is Bunko Spider-Man villain.
Yes!
Yeah.
This is Vulture on a budget.
Humble beginnings for Vulture.
Truly, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
But just like the idea that this ever fooled anyone in Coolsville.
I mean, it's very telling about what Mystery Inc. was being fooled by, right?
I think I probably brought this up in the last episode, but something about Scooby-Doo that really gets me, and they kind of address it in this movie, is that like there are two options in this universe where either monsters are real and they're plaguing people to a point where it would like scare people away from their fortunes, even though Velma always says like there has to be, monsters aren't real and there has to be a scientific explanation. Or people are just running around in monster costumes. They know they're running around in monster costumes and they still like they're still scared of them.
They still believe it. Yeah.
Well, because no one in like at least the classic cartoons is a murderer, and so it's like their lives are never in danger, but they act as if they are.
But like, why call them ghosts? You know what I mean? Unless the ghosts do exist in that universe, so they really are a threat. Otherwise, like, why are you dressing up as a ghost in the first place, right? Like, that's the one thing about Scooby-Doo that always kind of gets me. But they kind of address it in the Faux Ghost bar, where they have all these, like, somewhat professional monsters.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we don't get more robots where it could conceivably be real, but it's actually just a man in a suit. Like, the number of ghosts that we have as former villains and nemesis, I thought was very peculiar. As somebody who's not as familiar with any of this, it's just like, oh, is it mostly ghosts that we're battling?
Yes. But they're ghosts that are things, you know, or zombies, or
they're tangible.
There is a robot. I don't think we see him in this, but
well, no, that's Space Kook. Because Space Kook, because that was at an amusement park, and it was like, oh, it's the Space Kook. By the way, Joe, it's like an astronaut, but like in the astronaut helmet is just like a skull.
Oh, okay.
But in the end of the episode, it's revealed to be a robot that had gone haywire, so it wasn't actually a person behind it.
Well, there's also that's Charlie the robot,
right? But that's Space Kook. Oh. Fuck, you're right. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Charlie the robot.
No, it gets confusing. There are a lot of them.
Imagine being me right now.
Charlie the robot was so sweet, though. Like, he was just a sweet boy.
It's so sweet. But yeah, that's one of the ways, even in the 60s, the show was subverting itself. I'm like, look, no one's actually the bad guy in this episode.
Okay. So Jacobo, we learn, is basically assumed dead because he did not survive his escape from prison. So we then transfer over to his old cellmate, which is Old Man Wickles. So let's go to his creepy mansion. This is where we get a second KFC product placement plug.
Totally missed this. I'm so bad at this.
It's fine. It's fine. But let's talk about the giant mousetrap-like ball that they get stuck in.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, the fact that we spent a shit ton of money on this sequence, and it's basically just so that we can get Daphne using her cosmetics strategy to get them out.
Well, but the front porch trapdoor is, I wouldn't say a staple of Scooby-Doo, but it's definitely appeared in Scooby-Doo before. But I'm also a sucker for everyone falls except for Scooby, and he like does the cartoon like try to run really quick.
They did that so well in this too. It worked so well.
And twice. And I really appreciate it because I know it, but then when they do it a second time and Scooby is actually able to move through space, it just felt like an even better payoff.
It's so good.
100%. So, again, like I said, I saw this movie with my mom in theaters, and she didn't want to see this. Like, she didn't give a shit about Scooby-Doo. But so there are a couple of movies that my parents took me to go see as a kid, and I remember them laughing very specifically at certain jokes in movies. So, like...
Is it the Girl Scout and the Mormons?
Yes. so my mom lost it at there's cookies.
It's so funny.
It's
this
so
payoff,
good.
It like you could cut this hypothetically from the film. You could have them fall through a trapdoor and then they just like make their way through the mansion. But this payoff of a bunch of people being stuck in these giant balls was so good.
Including Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes. But it makes you really think about, like, every day does he come home and he has to let people like that out? Like,
yes. His fucking message is like, the owner will be back at 7 p.m. to set you free.
Yeah, which suggests it happens so frequently, we just pre-recorded a message.
But yeah, as soon as we get out of this, in my notes, I just put in all caps, I love this set.
yes, it's so cool.
Good. Yeah.
And I also love, sort of, Joel, what you were talking about before, how the sequence is for Daphne to use her makeup to, like, get out. Because that becomes a huge staple after, like immediately after this film, in most of the animated Scooby-Doos, is Daphne using, like, her
feminine
compact
objects
and her all her tooth. At one point she uses, like, her floss to, like, swing across as like a rope to swing. Like, they really go crazy with it after this. So
she's very resourceful, like from this point forward, I think, in the franchise.
This movie made her that way, I think. Like, when I say it changed Scooby-Doo forever, I mean it.
Because the first movie, we're making her like a martial arts, like kung fu queen, which is great. Like, it's very physical. But this one's like, oh yeah, she's also smart though.
Yeah.
Well, the other interesting thing, and I want to have a bit of a conversation about this just because it does segue into her storyline or her interactions with Velma later, but we're very much having a conversation about, I'm a girl and I enjoy being a girl who looks good, who feels good about herself. And then we are discussing gender norms. Like, there's a point where she calls Fred out for inadvertently calling her fat.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting in a film when we're saying, oh, well, this movie is now being aimed more at children. We're not doing as much of the adult jokes. Like, that's why you get the Mormon joke. That's for the adults. But, you know, here it's very much, oh, you know, we're gently cueing teen girls or even younger. You can take pride in your appearance and it doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't make you vacuous, but also you might later do martial arts.
Well, actually, Cory, that's a question for you, really, though, because you grew up with these movies and this specific version of Daphne in a way that I did not. So did this version of Daphne, like, do you think it had an impact on you and as you were growing up?
100%. I begged my parents to let me do karate classes because I wanted to be just like Daphne.
Aww.
They did not, but I definitely wanted to.
I had so many girls in my Taekwondo class. Like, I had a lot of girls.
I think this movie, like, especially because I saw it at such a young age and so many of my peers did, like, it really changed the way that we looked at women and the way that we looked at, like, these kind of characters. Because especially, like, I grew up with this version of Daphne, and most of the films that came after it also feature her being some kind of badass fighter. So, like, we've got that there. And then I grew up with, you know, Avatar The Last Airbender people like Katara and Azula and, like, all of these really interesting, complex, strong female characters that it wasn't even, like, I mean, there was still obviously, like, a lot of misogyny, but I think I grew up not really ever thinking that women were inferior or stupid just because they were pretty. Like, I always sort of had the idea that these, like, it girls can still be badasses.
And I going back to what you said, Joe, I think it's also, she's not using technology to get out of this thing. She's using makeup. So it's like using feminine tools. God, that sounds so bad. Not bad. It sounds unusual to say that. But like, she's using tools that many men would write off as like, oh, it's just a girl thing, as a way to save people.
She's not ashamed of her femininity, and she, like, uses it in ways that really help her. It's amazing. Yeah.
But it's not, like, sexual. It's not like she's trying to seduce men to get out of the cage or something.
Right.
I think, honestly, like, I really think James Gunn knew what he was doing there, because that changed a ton afterwards. And I honestly don't know if that would have been the case if Sarah Michelle Gellar hadn't been cast. Because Buffy, I mean, that's Buffy, too.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, I mean, I don't know if they had, because I'm sure James Gunn didn't have Sarah Michelle Gellar in mind when he was writing the first script.
But you play it up in the sequel.
Yeah, I know who I'm working with, so let me write around them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we get out of this ball and we start looking around. This is where we find the more or less How to Make a Monster book up in the library.
Which Velma just knows what it is. An obsolete Celtic text used by secret societies in the mid-19th century. Okay, Velma.
She gets that from looking at the cover.
I know!
She's so smart.
She is so smart.
So smart. So this is also our introduction of the Black Knight, who is played by Kevin Durand and voiced by Bob Papenbrook.
Wait, he's played by Kevin Durand?
I know. Well, this is what Wikipedia tells me.
wild.
Mhm.
One of my favorite, actually, the baby got back gag is pretty funny.
That killed me.
I enjoy that a lot. But I think one of my favorite gags, though, is this Post-it note when Scooby brings out all the clues. And it's just a Post-it that says, the faux ghost tonight.
Yes.
Shaggy's response, and look, it's tonight.
Thank God they found it.
I love it so much.
All right, so yes, this is when we then sneak out faking rabies so that Scooby and Shaggy can go and solve the case because they want to be contributing members of the group. But of course, the other members, the trio, are working out the fact that randemonium is playing a role in animating these monsters. So we will eventually end up coming together. But for now, we also need to hide from Patrick, who has shown up for a date with Velma. And this is where, again, I'm going to say I'm seeing more of either a lesbian or a bisexual read for Velma because we're down on hands and knees having this, conversation about how you should change for a man, but it looks like these two are about to kiss.
That scene with Daphne felt very queer-coded to me. Not even necessarily that they were in love with each other, but it really felt like a similar bond that like queer family or queer found family has, and how like you have to kind of lean on your queer friends when you have no experience in those kind of relationships.
Well, and I think even for me as a fan, like, okay, like in the cartoons, you know, obviously you have Shaggy and Scooby going off on their own and then Fred, Daphne, and Velma, but sometimes Velma would go off with Shaggy and Scooby, but you don't get a ton of like Velma-Daphne interaction in any of those earlier iterations, and I really appreciated this scene just for giving me that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a nice, genuine character-based moment, right? We're not talking about the case. We're just talking about these two people as human beings. Hey, how does this person make you feel? Don't be untrue to yourself. I mean, I think the message is deliberately skewed because, of course, Daphne isn't quite as wise as she pretends to be for Velma's benefit. But I think that there's an adult joke there, too. You know, the takeaway is that you should definitely change.
Well, okay, but I laugh every time. But like, what about when Velma's like, I'm not hot? There's this like long pause, and Sarah Michelle Gellar just goes, me neither.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Sure. These are two absolutely stunning actors.
Crazy to watch. I was like, what are you talking about?
Well, because I kept thinking that she was going to follow up with it, like with something. But no, that's just the end of the conversation.
Yeah, it maybe feels like a bit of a drop plot point that, or maybe it's to suggest that Daphne's not as comfortable or confident in herself because maybe that's why she takes it personally when Fred makes the oopsie later. And
I think you are spot on there, Joe. It's just a thing where it's like, I kind of wish we did spend a little more time digging into that, but you know, this is a 90-minute kids movie.
It's also so interesting too that she gives Velma that advice in the first place when she is like this badass feminine character who's like super girly but also saves the day.
Well, but I mean, and yeah, even though yes, she's not as smart, as intelligent as Velma is, but this is something that Daphne is much smarter at than Velma is. So I like seeing this kind of shift in roles.
Yeah, for sure.
I also took it as, well, Daphne is trying to give romantic advice, but also she's only ever been with one person. So I think she's trying to parlay that into something she's not as comfortable with.
Right.
I don't know what Patrick's going to be like. Is he like Fred?
Because that advice doesn't really seem to work. Like, he liked Velma just for Velma.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's definitely the point. Yeah.
Which is a nice segue because let's talk about Linda Cardellini in this red leather catsuit.
You want to talk about a queer awakening?
Holy bejesus.
That movie changed lives.
So, okay, so I will tell you this. So, you know, when I was, this came out when I was in high school, and not a lot of people knew Linda Cardellini. You know, I didn't have a lot of friends that were watching Freaks and Geeks years before this, you know?
No. I mean, there's a reason it's a one and done.
Yes. And so, but I remember when Linda Cardellini was cast in ER, there was a big picture of Linda Cardellini as she looks in Entertainment Weekly, and I was showing my friends, I was like, yeah, this is Velma from Scooby-Doo, and all these straight guys were like, what? Nuh-uh, she's like a dog in Scooby-Doo. This girl's hot. And I was like, yeah, they put a wig and glasses on her.
my God. The glasses and ponytailed her, but it worked in real life?
I think she looks so pretty, though, still.
Oh, 100%. And honestly, like, she looks great in this horrific, like, outfit.
She does.
I mean, the worst part is just the hair. The hair is bad. It looks like she's got a Jessica Simpson bump it in the back, but the body is banging and the fit is great.
Okay, like, obviously not the case, not a big deal because we're talking about a live-action cartoon, but where did all that hair come from?
Daphne. I'm sure Daphne had, like, extensions and stuff.
Just imagine Daphne being like, I've waited for this moment.
Yeah.
I've had extensions and a bump it ready in your color, Velma. I'm going to dress you up, girl.
Yes.
But as good as Cardellini's Who's Your Mommy is, I do love Seth Green's, like, my mommy?
No, because, like, why did she say that? It's so weird.
I mean, it's wild. I'm going to give a lot of credit to Seth Green because I don't think Gunn gives him a ton to do from a script perspective, but I quite like Patrick because of Seth Green's performance.
I mean, again, the make like your personality and split scene that we'll get later is, I think, the best use of his comedic talent in this movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we leave the trio behind and we hit the faux ghost, which is a villain dive bar, and Scooby and Shaggy show up under aliases Shizzy McCreepy and SD McCrawley.
Yeah.
My favorite detail of this set is the whack-a-mole Scooby gang.
I need that.
with the voices,
it's
mind
so
you.
cool. Also, like, when did they record the voices for that?
Right? The merchandising for this villain bar.
No, like, that's them. Like, they had to have known that was being made, right?
Yeah.
They must have recorded them. Like, the villains must have recorded them during various interactions. And then, was AI a thing in 2004? Could they just replicate their voices seamlessly?
Is this thing mass-produced, or was it made exclusively for the Fogo? So they're like, are these whack-a-moles all over the world?
How else are we going to pay for the mystery machine? We got to put gas in the tank.
You're learning, Joe. I'm so glad you didn't say Scooby Van.
You know what? I'll say it again later just for your benefit.
No.
I will say this is very childish. So this whole sequence, it is a lot of fun. It goes on for a little bit too long. My biggest, as somebody who's not a Scooby-Doo fan, I was just like, what is with the outfits of all of the extras in this? And I recognize that they're probably all emblematic of different adventures that we've had. Like, oh, this person's this ghost and therefore they're dressed this way. But from an outsider perspective, it just looks like such a dog's breakfast mess of costuming. It was like, could we have not found a little cohesion here?
Yeah.
That's a critique I have as a fan, is that I would have loved to have because these people aren't, correct me if I'm wrong, Cory, I don't think they have cartoon counterparts, and I would have loved to have seen them pull actual, like, characters from the cartoons who were monsters just out of costume and make them the characters in the scene, but they're not. They're just generic, like, oh yeah, villains.
I don't know why they didn't do that, but I also don't know why they didn't just lean into, like, the 70s color fun of it, because like we get that with Scooby and Shaggy's little like pimp get-ups, which I love.
It's so blaxploitation ridiculous.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to the actor who plays Aggie Wilkins. This is the woman that Scooby dances with. So the actor's name is Karen Knovel, and folks will recognize her from just a million different TV properties. But horror fans will know her as the mother from Black Xmas, as well as the mother from the infamous X-Files episode Home, which
oh my God.
Out on Patreon.
Whoa! Okay, you just like pieced together a puzzle that's been in my brain for 20 years, Joe.
Because she's got a very striking face, so you immediately see her and say, oh, I think I know her, but it's a character actor thing, right? You can't quite place it. So I ended up having to go down the IMDb filmography and be like, oh, yeah, I've seen her in, quite honestly, probably 25 different things.
Just one of those people. Another really good, again, Peter Boyle line when he tells Shaggy, I feel sorry for you because of your brother's huge, hideous nose deformity.
So silly.
Actually, there's a line later where Daphne refers to Peter Boyle as hideous old man Wickles.
Yes. To his face, too, right?
To his face.
Yes.
And he like doesn't even really react to it.
Nope. Oh, I've been called that and worse, I guess.
Poor hideous old man Wickles.
There's a couple of very specific, almost backhanded compliment kind of lines in this movie. So yeah, I mean, this whole sequence is a bit of a non sequitur. It doesn't really go much of it anywhere, except to convince us that Old Man Wickles is not as bad as he seems. He almost seems to have learned from his criminal past. And then, of course, Scooby gets his disguise compromised and we have to escape down a garbage chute.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's pretty Scooby-Doo.
Well, yeah, because I think that's also when we get that they fall out of the chute and then like Scooby tries to run to like save himself before he actually falls again.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about both of these movies are too when Scooby like is put in human clothes and everyone just accepts it.
Oh, it's a hideous nose deformity.
Yeah, like
definitely not a dog standing on its hind legs. And
definitely not a dog.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we cut back to the others. We're in the mystery machine. And of course, because we've got Velma in a leather outfit, we have to make some fart jokes.
Which, I won't lie.
They're funny. I laughed.
In the first movie, there's that long, extended fart sequence. And I think all of us were like, yeah, it goes on a little too long. Yeah. All the fart jokes in this movie work for me.
Me too, and I hate fart jokes.
I do too!
Oh, I love fart jokes. I think because they're so stupid, right? It's the lowest form of comedy.
Oh, yeah.
But a well-timed fart joke. Like, I would argue this film does understand when and how to use them.
Oh, he does that when he gets nervous later with Fred. Mm-hmm. That kills me every time.
It's a plot point. We get rid of a ghost because of it.
Which was iconic. Like, somebody show this to Quentin Tarantino and have him do that in the movie.
Oh my God.
He would love it.
Okay, so unfortunately, while we've been out cavorting, having all of these kinds of adventures, our evil mastermind has struck again, and we've cleared out all of the remaining villain costumes from the museum exhibition.
So this is the deleted scene. And in this deleted scene, we have the Black Knight Ghost again, but we are introduced to the 10,000 Volt Ghost because he helps the Black Knight Ghost steal all the costumes.
Yeah, I mean, I think by not having that, it's okay.
It's totally fine. But it's, again, but this is also the scene where we would see the Creeper costume and we would see the Redbeard costume, so.
We were really robbed. I don't know, like, we could have gotten the zombie. We could have got, like, the zombie at the Phogos too, because we have the witch there.
Yeah.
So, like, there were so many parts where I was like, why didn't we get more? Why didn't we see those two together?
I'm just saying, I think there's more stories about the making of this movie that haven't come to light yet, only because it's not as popular as that first movie.
We need to investigate this.
Mm-hmm.
We need to form a new mystery.
Well, you know what? The week this comes out, it will be the 20th anniversary of the film, so maybe James Gunn will offer us some tidbits that the week this comes out.
You know what? We're going to tag them. We don't usually tag the filmmakers in the episodes because I think it's a bit gauche at times, but maybe we'll just tag them and say, we have questions. It's the 20th anniversary. Give us the secrets. Give us the
exactly.
Yeah. So, yes, obviously, with this extra large museum heist, Heather is back on the scene. We're still doing scandalous exposés. Fred is still sticking his foot in his mouth. So we immediately get this on the air, and it just looks really, really bad for Mystery Inc.
But, okay, what about Daphne's confrontation with Heather Jasper Hell?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to play the clip, y'all, because Sarah Michelle Gellar does, in my opinion, an amazing job delivering this nonsense of a line.
Unmask those. You sound like...
Sound like who?
the evil masked guy. But you know that. Because just as you know I'm standing here, you know that I know who you know you are, which is him, who's a her, which is you.
Like, what the fuck?
It's nonsense, but yeah, she makes it funny.
Well, and she even also, like, solves it. She's like, which is a him, which is a her, which is you. Mm-hmm. Makes no fucking sense, but she got it.
Also, this whole time, like, she was thinking she's stupid, and she got the monster before everyone else did.
Yeah, she calls it.
And I like, because this is the first time that Alicia Silverstone gets to let down her guard and be evil. Like, she's genuinely mean to Daphne in this part.
Yes.
I don't really buy Daphne taking it to heart, because I think after what's happened in the first movie and what we've already seen from Daphne in this movie, I don't think what Heather says to her would have actually, like,
That's
hurt
actually a
her
really
that
good
much.
point. Her character development in the first film doesn't really carry over.
No, we reset.
This film doesn't mention the first movie in any shape, way, or form. So you could watch this and think this is Scooby-Doo 1.
You know what? That is,
Right.
I'm going to say that's my theory now, because they break up in the second, in the first one. It says that they've like the gang breaks up and they're mad at each other. They don't talk to each other anymore.
Actually, I wonder if they would work if you watch them in reverse.
I think it would,
Ooh.
but you would have to figure out how they would break up from this point.
You know what? That's a challenge to listeners then. I would love it if, I mean, assuming that people have not already watched the first one from 2 years ago, if you're just now listening to this and you haven't watched it, yeah, try them in reverse order and see if it works.
Well, it actually would make, even in terms of content, though, because, again, this one's a kid's movie, and then we're doing a sequel that we're going to gear more towards adults who grew up with the first movie, you know?
And then Velma becomes more of a lesbian. As
Yeah!
It makes so much sense.
We cracked it.
She tried Patrick, it didn't work out.
Well, because even the plot of this one, it makes more sense if you're making a live action movie of a beloved cartoon. Celebrate the cartoon, which is what this does. Okay,
Fun. Okay.
got it.
Yeah, so we get this fake out where we think maybe it's Alicia Silverstone, and then of course it's not, because the villain actually appears on the top of the museum, so it can't be her.
Were you fooled by this, Joe?
No, not at all. Not even for a second.
I mean, technically, it's not Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true.
I do think they could have given us someone better, though, than Ned.
Yes.
I thought that was a
Ned.
little far-fetched that he would, like, I mean, obviously it's Scooby-Doo, but, like, that he would get all the way up there, like, in time.
Well, I mean, when they reveal him, when Daphne's like, Ned, and it's like, who?
Yeah, exactly.
But don't you think that's a joke?
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
to me felt like a big, who? Has that person, I meant to go back and I didn't because I ran out of time, but I meant to go back and look to see if we'd even seen this character before. We have once.
Yeah, I think he's in the background a lot, but he's never really the focus of any shots. Which, honestly, is fine, because I feel like if there was, like, a focusing shot on him, you'd be like, why are we seeing this right now?
It's the Scream principle, right? Where
Yep.
we've got this person who's always lurking in the back and then they're revealed to be the killer at the end.
Exactly.
It's funny, too, because in, the original Scooby-Doo, there's usually only, like, one or two suspects, and they're always around.
Yeah.
And it's made very clear.
No surprises. So back with Shaggy and Scooby, this is where they spy on Patrick in an alley where he's basically putting on a tough guy act. And then this is a comedic interaction that did work for me, where he just keeps scaring them. And then they joke, you could do this all night.
And something tells me you would. Yeah, this is. I think this is the last time Seth Green really gets to, like, be useful in this movie, because he doesn't really have much to do after this. But I think he works enough as a red herring.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like when we discover the shrine, I definitely thought, okay, and here's the confirmation. Patrick's the bad guy, as we assumed. And then the only other real scene we get of him is when he saves Velma.
Man, okay, obviously it would make it way more predictable, because you'd have the two, like, big celebrity guest stars of the movie be the villains. But wouldn't it have been more interesting if Patrick was her assistant and not Ned?
Yeah.
Well, it would be interesting to see his relationship with Velma and see, like, if somehow they would be able to still have that relationship and him be the assistant somehow.
Well, if this was like a PG-13 version of the movie, she would be like, all right, I'm a lesbian now, and go kiss a girl.
Yeah.
Right. I wonder, though, I mean, I know we just figured it out, and this is actually a reverse order chronology, but is it possible that they said, oh, we don't want to repeat what we did with Shaggy in the first film, where we're dating somebody who's actually bad?
But Mary Jane didn't turn out, I mean, she was possessed, but she was fine by the end of it.
Right. Sorry, my mistake for forgetting that detail.
I mean, it's okay, because Mary Jane's not in this movie. She was off
Really?
doing Wedding Crashers.
No, I think that is a good point, though. It would be too predictable if they made the love interest evil again.
Yeah.
So we are headed to the abandoned Coolsville mine because that's where Old Man Wickles has set up his shack. I did want to note that the score for this movie feels very Danny Elfman in this moment.
Oh,
I think it works. It sounds great.
Oh, I love the score for this movie. It's like fucking like choral versions of Scooby-Doo tunes.
Yes.
Like this is all up my alley. I love it. And actually to the point where, we talked a lot about the soundtrack of the first movie in that first episode, which is a fucking banger. I don't think the soundtrack for this movie is as good, but I do think the score for this movie is really good.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's really good at setting the tone.
I don't think we got Outcast on this one, right?
No, I don't
there's
think
just
so.
no comparing.
Just Ruben stuttered.
Oh my god. Talk about a time capsule, right?
100%. It's just like, oh, this is where we're still putting American Idol people into movies and trying to make them more famous?
Oh, is that who it was?
Yeah.
At the end, Ruben? Yeah. Let's see. All right. So for this soundtrack, we got Simple Plan again, New Radicals, Apache Indian.
Oh, I do love the New Radical song, actually. That was one of my favorites.
Big Brothers, Fatboy Slim, Bad Manners, Ruben Studdard, Harvey Danger, 2 Unlimited, Wild Cherry, Bowling for Soup.
Oh, yeah. These are actually all good people, but I don't remember any of these songs except
None
for New
of these
Radicals.
songs. Yeah. It's just not as iconic as the first one. It's fine.
Okay, let's talk about Scooby and Shaggy sneaking through this warehouse because the framing is delightful.
Oh, this is a cartoon.
Yes, 100%. Like, you know exactly what's going to happen. Oh, they're switching positions, one's carrying the other, so on. And then, of course, we've got to have a monster in there the third time around.
So good.
I will confess, I did not remember the Skeleton Man from the cartoon.
They're really obscure and they look nothing like. They have like a blue kind of like suit around the skeleton, the eye of the skeleton. Like this is another one of the problems where little me was like, that's not what they look like.
That's not it.
Yeah, they look more like aliens in the cartoon. From season 3, episode 2, A Creepy Tangle in the Bermuda Triangle, by the way. Clearly not an episode that I remembered very much.
Yeah, these are fine to a layperson. This was very cartoony, but, almost taking me out of it, making me feel like it was not a live action film anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get into some fun hijinks with them. I enjoy more of Scooby going down the cliff with them chasing him.
Yeah.
That was when it worked the best for me.
Yeah, but this sequence we're talking about, though, where Shaggy and Scooby going in and out of the darkness, and, then, of course, it winds up like, one of them's carrying a skeleton man, or the skeleton men are carrying them. This all worked for me. But yeah, I think we dip back into the skeleton man a little too much, because it almost feels like all of our Mystery Inc. characters have a counterpart, because obviously they'll face off against another ghost on their own. But the skeleton men are just the Scooby and Shaggy counterparts, and they're just they're good, but we use them too much.
I would have liked it better if they did really lead into that more and they gave them a personality that would be a better counterpart to each.
Right.
Like they could have done a lot with that.
Okay, again, movie fix, if they were seen as less than by the other ghosts because they were too goofy or not useful enough, and so they end up bonding with Shaggy and Scooby.
Oh, that would be so sweet.
Yeah, because they definitely seem less effective than all the other ghosts.
Well, they're also the least deadly. Like, all the other ghosts have a death trap.
Yeah, which also, that was one thing that was really strange. I mean, I kind of appreciated that they changed the monsters once they made them real, but like, since when did the Minor 49er breathe fire and like stuff like that was all really strange.
That's just Heather Jesper. I'm sorry, Jonathan Jacobo's machine did that.
Sure, yeah. Additional powers, villain powers.
Why not?
It was fun.
Okay, so yes, we get scared by these skeletons. We end up making our way to an elevator. This is when the rest of the group arrives, and we interrupt Old Man Wickles as he's pitching investors on a summer camp for kids. And the most adult joke in this movie, in my mind, is the pun on miners. So we could have them digging 18 hours a day and we don't have to pay them.
Yes.
They get to dig to their heart's delight and we get free miners.
It's so good.
Which, truthfully, though, I don't know, like, the practicality of this business at all, because I do feel like kids would actually get bored after a while.
Yeah. You'd have to have something for them to find if they were going to be digging.
I do love that we introduced the concept of prison My Fair Lady in this scene, which will get paid off later.
I believe him that he was good,
so
too.
dumb.
Yeah!
You were too acty.
I mean, one is definitely a more ostentatious performer.
Right.
And it's not Old Man Wickles.
I would like to compare them.
Yes, I would love to see the audition tapes. Is that a deleted scene choice?
Dude, no, but it should have been.
It
Oh
should
my
be
God.
like the credits.
Rip Peter Boyle. I wish we could get him to film this again.
Oh, I forgot he was dead.
Yeah, he died, like, honestly, like 4 years after this movie came out. Yeah.
Okay, so we go down into a huge laboratory, and this is where we immediately begin ingesting experimental beakers full of neon liquids. So, folks, let's talk about some of these transformations, because we do get Shaggy transforming into a woman.
I love this. I mean, it looks so bad because female Shaggy doesn't have a neck, which is very weird.
No. Yeah, we're definitely cutting out Matthew Lillard's head, putting it on either a CG rendered body or a very awkward real life woman. But I guess it was interesting because I was trying to look for some queer elements to talk about in this episode, because I figured it has a camp appeal, it has a queer audience, and then we do get a couple of not so positive queerness. And I did see one random article that suggested this movie is transphobic, and I think they were referencing this scene, but I was surprised that we're not doing I'm oogling my boobs.
You mean like they did in the first film?
Yeah, like it really seems like Shaggy is just kind of, oh wow, this is weird, look at this. And that's the joke.
It feels very Roger Rabbit, because even the music that kicks in here feels like Jessica Rabbit's theme song. I don't know. I don't, because you said the article didn't point out what specifically about the film was transphobic.
No, but they stated it like it was an irrefutable fact. Like, we just all accept that this second movie is transphobic. And I was like, do we?
I did not pick up on that.
I don't either. And again, if we have any listeners out there who are picking up on this, or if you wrote that article, by all means, please let us know. But I would, agree with you, Joe. If I had to guess, it would be this scene, unless there's something about Jacobo being Heather Jesper Howe.
I was going to say
really
that's probably what it is.
That's a weird gay panic thing, right? Like, oh, I've been cuddling up with this man unbeknownst to me. But that to me is just kind of like, oh, that's very 2004.
I think it's more about like trans women really being evil men in disguise. That's like a very common trope we see, especially in horror films, you know.
Oh,
but I don't really get that here, but like I can see how you would make that argument.
I guess though, to me, I'm just like, well, yeah, we're just doing another riff on the man in a mask trope. So,
which we did in the first one too.
Yeah, and we do it, I presume, all the time on Scooby-Doo. Like, isn't this a hallmark of the series?
Yeah, James Gunn kind of takes it in an extreme where he's like, let's unmask and then unmask again and then unmask again, you know. But that's sort of the joke, right? Is that it's supposed to be really dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite part about this is how it's Mission Impossible level perfection. Like, when we see Matthew Lillard transform into a woman, it looks janky and horrible. Like, this is not convincing at all. And then when we actually get to see Heather get unmasked at the end and revealed to be Jacobo, you're just like, oh, this looks like Ethan Hunt in IMF gear.
Okay, right? Like, honestly, I watched that last scene where Alicia Silverstone gets unmasked so many times to figure out, like, when they do the shift. Like,
it's just really well done.
It looks really good.
That was all her. She just was able to do that.
She just pulled off her face.
Very elastic face.
She's she's a really talented actress, guys.
But yeah, I mean, I guess, I think you probably verbalize it the best. I think if you were going to pull a transphobic reading out of this, that is the one I could subscribe to. I don't.
No. The film doesn't treat it as nefarious enough if you wanted to go that direction, but I don't know. I mean, I don't like to ever say a reading is a stretch, but I wouldn't subscribe to this one as a first inclination.
I would definitely be interested to hear more. And I do wonder if that Shaggy scene has something to do with it. But I was glad that they didn't make him like gross and like,
look at my boobies.
Yeah. Because I do feel like of all of the characters besides Scooby, like as a non-binary person, I feel like Shaggy's gender is like Shaggy. Like, he really defies all laws. Like, he is just his own thing.
Yeah, because if anything, this whole sequence illuminates how excitable the two are, right? Like, they just want to gobble up different potions because they want to see what it's going to turn them into next. So we get, I fully guffawed when Scooby turns into the actual animated Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
It's just so fucking funny to me.
I would like the Albert Einstein Scooby more if it didn't feel like it was ripping off Gremlins 2.
That's how I felt too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This whole sequence kind of feels Gremlins 2-y.
This whole sequence could be cut out of the movie and it wouldn't make a lick of difference, but this is this
but
is
we
for
wouldn't
the kids.
get Buff Shaggy, and that would really be that would be a crime.
I do like how it changes his personality, so he almost sounds a bit more like Fred, but more Jim Beach Bro.
I don't think James Gunn had any idea the Shaggy memes that would come from that in 10 years time, but he really did us a service.
Yeah, but you're not wrong, Trace. The fact is this is just another funny gag. It doesn't really contribute too much, except that when we change back, we do cause an explosion that opens up the Monster Hive.
Monster Hive. I wish this looked like a full-blown like villain layer and not just like another segment of the mine, but it's fun.
It's okay. Yeah. I think the machine, like watching the suits come down when Shaggy and Scooby inevitably turn on the machine accidentally. I think all of that part looks good, but yeah, the rest of it is just, it's a little too generic mine for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we turn on the monster machine and shit, we've mass produced a bunch of new monsters. So now we need to beat it the hell out of there. So Fred, Daphne, and Velma get it in the Scooby van.
Okay, a joke that I did laugh at though was that we're gonna die. Think positive. We're gonna die quickly.
That's Freddie Prinze Jr. too, right?
No, it's Shaggy and Daphne.
Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah. Because I was going to say, I felt like Freddie Prinze Jr.'s comedic timing was actually pretty good in some of these key moments.
It was. I don't feel like he got as many jokes as he did last time, though.
No.
He just didn't get enough screen time, I guess.
Which, but I'm not saying I'm okay with that because I Freddie Prinze Jr.'s as Freddie has grown on me over the years, even though I do think out of all of them, he's probably... And it's not even his fault. It's just the character of Fred himself is just kind of the weakest one, in my opinion. But it's clearly a case of, hey, Matthew Lillard and Linda Cardellini got the biggest praise in that first movie, so let's give them more to do in this second movie.
And this one, we say, let's also give Sarah Michelle Gellar a little bit more action, but let's take out some of the wire fu because that didn't look very good. And also, she and a stunt double could do it just as convincingly.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we've neglected to say... because we didn't get that deleted scene, this is the introduction of the 10,000 volt ghost. And then we've got this surf down the cliff sequence with Shaggy and Scooby, and it's good, just chaotic, fun action.
Yeah, it's fun.
So the evil masked figure begins to destroy Coolsville because we have escaped with the panel that turns the machine on or off.
Okay, so the worst CGI in this movie is when this angry man in the car is getting choked out by the tar monster, and there's like a tar tentacle that like wraps around his mouth, and he starts like burbling, and it looks so bad.
Yeah, all the tar stuff. Like, there's some genuinely horrifying moments later on when it is, as you said, Trace, choking every member of the group out except for Scooby. I wish it looked better because I think that could be very scary. Like, this has a lot of atmosphere. As you said earlier, Cory, watching that ship come in over the street is amazing. And it just doesn't feel like all of the visual effects are aligning to make this look as good as it possibly could.
But I do like the moment that when the tar monster kind of like stomps on the ground and his tar goes out everywhere and like stops people in their tracks. I think that's kind of cool.
I wonder like how much of that is like 2004 no budget and how much of that is like these monsters would be too scary for kids if we didn't make them look a little fake.
But also here's the thing though, like if, as you've already said, Scooby looks better in this movie than he looked in the first movie. So if they're diverting more of that CGI money to make Scooby look better at the expense of the tar monster, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
This is just me being like, I think this is like a thing in my generation, but I just think it's like so cute to see like CGI that's awful. Like, I don't know why, but I have a really deep appreciation for it. Like,
We've come so far. Look at how cute they were.
Like there's like it adds to the film for me. It's like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, like that kind of CGI. There's just something that adds to the atmosphere.
Well, but I would argue there's that element of camp to that too. Like when it's campier, like I can forgive bad CGI, you know. But like I mean, like looking at like quote unquote. Well, I was gonna say serious horror films. I was like, oh, look at Anaconda, look at Deep Rising, but those also have elements of camp to them. But
right,
the CGI is part of the camp.
Yeah. When it's so distracting that it takes you out of the film, that's when it becomes maybe unintentional camp, but not always in the right way. Because this movie is already so kind of Play-Doh elastic, I'm willing to forgive it. Did I wish it looked better, particularly in certain sequences? Yeah, but it's a gimme. But
I think, again, when we're talking live-action cartoon, like when things actually do look like cartoons, I'm kind of like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously, the evil masked figure is calling for Mystery Inc. to turn themselves in, so they have to go underground. So, we go back to the old teenage clubhouse, and we get a flashback that introduces the fact that we're really good at Frisbee, because we're going to need to bring that back later.
Fun fact, Joe, do you know who plays young Daphne?
Is it Taissa Farmiga?
It is not. Her name is Emily Tennant, but she is the titular influencer in Influencer.
Oh.
Wow.
Really? Okay. Because she definitely looked familiar. I obviously did not bother to look her up because I thought
20
it
years
was
ago.
Funny to say Taissa Farmiga, but...
But yeah, no, she's not the bad girl. She's the main girl that gets stranded on the island.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, Canadian, so yeah.
There was another cameo like that like really got me, and I can't remember what it was. Some Disney Channel star that played one of the kids on the bike.
Oh, whenever Daphne's like, "Hey, you, shut up."
Yes,
which I did laugh at.
That's a really good line.
I mean, it's not, but it's...
Oh, it was it was Callum Worthy, who, like, if you were watching Disney Channel when I was, like, he was really big at that time.
Oh, so this was a bit of a stunt cast.
Wait, the guy from Bodied.
Yeah.
Oh, shit! Oh my god, yeah, kid on bike. Ah!
God.
That's wild.
Okay, so we get a montage as the trio rewire the panel, and this is also when Scooby and Shaggy really feel like losers because they have, contributed to the creation of all these extra monsters, and also everybody kind of hates them. They're public enemy number one now, so they commiserate that they'd like to do the right thing for once on purpose. And of course, this is the through line for the rest of the film.
I love them throwing the waking Captain Cutler's ghost, though. Like, just the little funk that it makes is so good.
I love seeing Captain Cutler's ghost as live action, too, because that's my favorite villain, and I feel like he has the most... I just think he has the most interesting look of any of them, and so it was really cool to see him, like, glowing for real.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think out of all the monsters in this movie, like, he's probably the most iconic.
I feel like he is the most memorable. Like, obviously, the Knight, or, some of the more original villains are very iconic, but I feel like he's the one you think of a lot of times when you think of a Scooby-Doo villain.
So are we happy with the way they use him then? Because I think him shooting these spears is interesting, but it didn't feel... maybe as memorable.
He doesn't really do much after this either. And I would argue maybe it's because the suit is so heavy.
Right. A little cumbersome.
I think he should have been a more central villain. Like, why are I feel like we waste a lot of time on the tar monster, which it's cool, but it's like, I think Captain Cutler, like the OGs would have been more appealing.
Well, but again, I'm wondering, like, with the number of monsters we were going to have in this film, if each one of them was going to get their own set piece, and that's kind of it. But then when we limit it down, we go, oh, shit, well, this one has to do this one too, and this one over here too.
Bring this one back in. Yeah, and this one is just a casualty of that.
I can almost guarantee that's what happened.
Yeah, because it's not a bad sequence. He nearly prevents the mystery machine from getting away, and then they end up having to, like, basically rear end him back over him and send him back into the water. It's fun.
Oh, and he flies it. Yeah, that's again, I love a cartoony effect, so him just flying back is pretty fun. But I don't think does he return in the finale?
No, I think this is it.
Nevertheless, this van chase is awesome.
Yeah, so the pterodactyl comes back. We have to have Scooby take the wheel. And of course, he's a dog who doesn't know how to drive very well.
Poor
But I do
thing.
love that we've also unfurled some kind of like, what is this? Like a fuck rug that we've got in the back of the van? Because
Yeah.
it spills out all of the other members and they are just hanging on for the ride.
It's just like carpet surfing in the
It's so
Mystery
good.
Machine. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Again, this is something that would totally happen in the cartoon.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
we're defying physics constantly just as the cartoon would.
And that's what it should be.
Mhm. Well, and it's also just like a different action set piece than we've seen in other parts of the film. So it's extra exciting. You know, again, we could cut this out and just have them get directly back to
Yeah.
the mine, but it's a fun moment to have.
Well, and I think it's one of those things too. I mean, again, even with the science liquid transformation scene where it's like, but that would be a scene in an episode of the cartoon show. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I get if you're watching this as a film critic and you're kind of like, this isn't really necessary to have here. Like, you could cut this and it wouldn't make any difference, as I said, but it's there for the fans.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you can tell that James Gunn has such a love for this franchise, and he
Oh,
knows
yeah.
it inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
So we arrive at the mine, and this is, yes, where we start to pair off each member of the Scooby Gang against a ghost or adversary of their choice. So we do have Fred going up against the Black Knight to the tune of Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive.
That is so good.
It's just too brief. I wanted them to have at least 2 more cracks at each other.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
We also have Daphne going up against the glowy, ugly 10,000 volt ghost.
Oh my God. Taste the Pain, Mr. Glowy Ugly thing is my favorite. But her plan is
She just runs at it.
really stupid. She just kicks it.
Girl, it's a ghost.
It's electricity. It's 10,000 volts. It's in the name.
Cindy, what are you doing? This is electricity.
But again, I do love the effect. I mean, she just jumps into this thing and is sent flying. But my favorite touch is that the ends of her hair are stained black.
I know. I just feel like she would have reacted to that. Like, that would have killed her.
Right?
She would have been so upset if her hair got fried.
And we don't really focus on the Fred Daphne romance in this movie, which I do appreciate because who could care?
Sure.
But I like this moment where she lands right next to Freddie and they kind of like have this like tender moment, which I appreciate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, because he spent the whole movie being like emotions and other things that make a human being make me weak. And this is her opportunity to say, well, we're about to die. And I actually think it just makes you human and I love you.
I really like that.
I do too.
Yeah. So we do still have Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby in action, but she passes off the control panel to them because they're faster. And yes, we have this moment where she kind of retcons how she's been acting towards them. But even her saying they've never been fearful to be who they truly are, to me, this is a queer anthem, right?
Yes.
This is all about you need to be who you truly are. And I wish I could be like you in that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad you pointed that out, Joe, because I 100% agree with you. Watching this, even as a 15-year-old who wasn't out of the closet yet, like this, again, this is a really touching scene for me and my development as a queer man.
Sure. So we take the monsters down relatively easily now that we've had this kind of moment of empowerment and we've come back together as a group. So Fred and Daphne turn the 10,000 volt ghost against the Black Knight. Velma crushes the skeletons and Scooby turns his penchant for farting. He uses that against Minor 49er. So these ghosts are temporarily out of commission.
Yep.
It's fun. It's a montage, you know,
Yeah.
we needed to move things
Yeah.
along and we still got all these adversaries in motion, but we need to move on.
It's exactly what happened in the cartoon, too.
Yeah, this feels like, okay, let's get to it and we'll get to the big climactic confrontation at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in all of this commotion, you can't have anything Scooby-Doo related without Velma losing her fucking glasses. So,
Yes! Oh my God.
jinkies!
the way I cheer every time.
Me too.
My glasses!
I love how she was like, I need to get contacts.
It's like what is that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where it's like pointing at the screen like every time Velma loses her glasses.
It's always classic.
And this is the payoff to our suspicions of Patrick. So she thinks she's found a shrine. She thinks that he might be the son of Jacobo. And then she nearly falls to her death and he asks her to trust him. And lo and behold, he's not a villain. He is just misunderstood. And then he gets carried away by a pterodactyl.
I like it. I mean, because I will confess. I mean, I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, maybe he is the bad guy. But
yeah, they do a pretty good job at making him a red herring.
He does a really good job of making himself a red herring.
Suspicious behavior for this museum curator, for sure.
That's true. And then, like, once you find out he's not, don't you feel so bad for him? That his whole collection, like...
What are you doing?
Well, because they were like, it took 2 years to put this museum together. And I wrote in my notes, 2 years? Like...
He was working.
He was.
And all that hard work just down the drain. I feel bad for him.
I mean, I gathered by the end of this movie that we would just bring it back and do even bigger and better than ever, so.
That's true. It would probably attract more tourism.
Oh my god. The notoriety would just bring in even more people, right?
The Coulsonian Criminology Museum.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo 3, we find out that it was actually him under the mask doing this to get publicity for the museum.
Would also work as a motivation.
Scooby-Doo 3 brings us to Crystal Cove, and we get Mystery Incorporated plot points.
Go off. Okay, I need that.
I mean, come on. Maybe James Gunn wasn't watching by this point, but like, we need a Professor Pericles in there, right?
Yes.
Udo Kier still needs to voice him.
Oh my god, yes, it would be so good. I know, because especially like in Mystery Inc., they have like a museum of the monsters too.
And in that museum, they have the Luna Ghost from the opening scene of the first Scooby-Doo movie.
Know, it's so good.
Oh, it's so good.
I love Mystery
Joe's like,
Inc.
I'm over here in the corner, just... Yeah, so great.
Literally, the pilot episode of Mystery Incorporated is Velma as like, because they're not solving mysteries anymore, and Velma's like, oh, I have to do this tour for my parents' museum, which is basically this Coulsonian museum. But in the upper landing, you can see the Luna Ghost, and you're like, ah!
They have the best Easter eggs in Mystery Inc. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, talk about people made it that love the show.
Yes,
like, they got it.
Exactly.
Right. I feel like that's what I've discovered the more we talk about Scooby-Doo is that the people who love it just are so unabashedly in love with it, and like they will do anything in terms of Easter eggs, referencing the millions of permutations we have.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, though, because I feel like also like a lot of people like, or studios or networks or whatever, they wouldn't give a shit. They'd be like, hey, do you know Scooby-Doo? Cool. Write some silly mystery. But it's like, no, people that work on this property just genuinely love it.
I feel like Scooby-Doo really has a way of connecting with like so many different groups of people. And it's just such a universal story that I think so many people have a connection to it.
I think that's so fascinating, though, because there are the same amount of people who write this off as silly schlock, you know? And I don't know. I wasn't referring to you in that, Joe. I know that's not you.
I like to think I've turned a corner. And
Yes.
Yeah.
You started calling it the Mystery Machine.
Yeah, you're talking about the Scooby van, right?
We're getting there.
I love it.
I think if nothing else, it's proof that people should never dismiss other people's fandom because there's always a really passionate core group for every property.
I mean, again, as we said, like Scooby-Doo's been going on for 60 years.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Shall we briefly talk about the cotton candy glob?
Yes.
I mean, it's fun.
Can we please?
I just think this is so silly. It's very fun. I appreciate that it's very brief because the joke is obvious the minute it appears.
Because that's also a monster from Scooby-Doo. They didn't just make that guy up.
Was he from one of the Scooby-Doo movies?
No, he's from, I believe it's called The New Scooby-Doo. It's the one where they have the guest stars. It's the episode with Cass Elliot.
It's Mama Cass Elliot, right?
Yes. And it also, those ones were green, but I think it's in reference to, in the original Scooby-Doo, there's that shot, and you see it in the title sequence, where Scooby is licking like all of this pink frosting off of his face. And so that's why I think yeah, that's what I think it was in reference to both of those.
So yeah, it's the green globs from the new Scooby-Doo movies, the hour-long episodes that had guest stars. But that's actually how I first learned about Mama Cass Elliot, because I think she did her voice for that episode like a few years before she died.
Yeah, she was really great in that. I love that episode. episode.
Oh, she was so funny.
I felt very vindicated seeing Scooby and Shaggy finally have a monster that they were not scared of. I thought that was so good.
And the score kicking in with the hallelujah. Love it.
I just love anytime a villain comes in and is super boastful and then just immediately gets cut down to size because they have some kind of deficiency that our heroes can take advantage of.
And actually, I don't know how much of this creature was CGI because even when it moves its face, it almost looks animatronic.
It looks good.
I wish it
like
was
this one.
animatronic. That would be life-changing. If all of these were animatronics, that would be crazy.
I mean, animatronics are someone in a man in a mask.
Sure. Yeah. We're just properly Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
So, yes, we can sort of move through this next part a little bit more quickly because basically we're just playing Frisbee with this control panel and then everybody gets gobbled up in the tar and Scooby has to save the day using an everlasting fire extinguisher because this motherfucker never runs out of juice.
Ooh, and we're bringing back the one song that played in the first movie, which is MXPX's cover of the Scooby-Doo theme song.
Still fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's a minute and a half long of a song, and I listen to it on repeat very frequently.
As you should, yeah.
But yeah, this is really fun. I do agree, though. It is scary, though, because it looks like, Daphne looks like she's dying.
Yes.
It's really scary.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what you said, Cory, because I feel like you checked me, because my initial reaction was, oh, it just doesn't look very good. Like, I wish it looked better. But it's already scary not looking super convincing.
Like, if you were 5 and watching that, you would be crying.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's a really good point because that's who this movie is for, right? Younger audiences who would still be scared of this.
Not that the first one wasn't utterly terrifying and
right.
I think it's way scarier, but I do wonder if that might have been a reason why the CGI didn't look as good. I don't know.
Actually, even for this, because I have to imagine the person that animated this sequence specifically also did the opening credits, because I would imagine that most of this is just animation.
Quite possibly. Yeah, because it's Scooby in the tar. So.
Yeah, I mean, you have the shots of, when we have the actual members of the Mystery Inc. gang there that I'm sure Raja Gosnell shot, but I feel like most of this was no, have the animator do this sequence because it looks like a 3D ride.
Right. Yeah.
But nevertheless, they destroy all this shit, the monsters dissolve, and they win.
Yeah, the day is saved, and it's all thanks to Scooby.
All thanks to Scooby. No Scrappy in this movie, sadly.
I love Scrappy.
I know you do.
But I don't love James Gunn's Scrappy, so I'll give him a pass on that.
I think he's still in prison in this movie. Actually, oh, no, he's still on the loose because this comes out first.
Exactly. We've already decided.
Just let him be happy. He's just a puppy. God. He's not evil. I hate this.
He's misunderstood.
I'm going to clear his name one day. Just you wait.
Oh my God, spin-off.
I wish you all the luck in the world, and all the horrible fans are going to have to fight for that.
No, you know what's going to happen is Scrappy's going to take off his mask, and Red Herring's going to be under there.
Yes!
There we go.
Speaking of masks, though, so Joe, what did you think of Heather Jasper Howe being the villain, but then revealed to just be Tim Blake Nelson in a mask?
I mean, yeah, it's silly in all the right ways. It's exactly what I kind of expected would happen. If it wasn't going to be Seth Green, then it could only be Jacobo. So it makes perfect sense, and it's very silly.
I really wanted it to be Jacobo, and then just one more mask.
One more mask.
And then someone really weird,
I think a part of me just wanted it to just be Heather Jasper Howe, just to give Alicia Silverstone more to do. Because again, we haven't seen her in a while.
No.
And she's just here to be unmasked, and then quite literally unmasked again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that this movie has a villain problem, but I do wish that maybe we had a few less ghosts and we could have used them better or more regularly. And yeah, as I said, I would have loved to have seen more Alicia because I love her.
Actually, honestly, and again, just fixing the movie, just use the monsters from the first 3 episodes. So use Black Knight, use Captain Cutler, and then I think it's a Ghost in a Sheet, or maybe Minor 49ers the third one. And just have them be a trio of villains,
Okay, that's what I was saying. Or at least the first season, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would have been much better. than using like, why did we use the pterodactyl? I mean, he was fun, but it was like, what? Like,
Pterodactyl made no sense. I actually did really appreciate the 10,000 Volt Ghost because that was one that I always thought was a really cool monster growing up.
yeah.
And he looks good in action, like all the fiery pyrotechnics.
Why are we not using the originals?
Or even when planning, I'd be like, why don't you do something that wouldn't require all CGI?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Save yourself the hassle. God, it's 2004. Can we execute this well?
I wonder if at the time they were like, this looks so good.
Maybe.
I don't really remember 2004 all that well, so I can't speak to it, but...
I mean, it's just a thing where, I mean, like, yeah, it's just growing pains, you know? I mean, again, look from Scooby-Doo 1 to Scooby-Doo 2. But actually, even, like, the demons in Scooby-Doo 1, I think, look fine.
Yeah.
So...
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. You had an issue with them, Joe.
I like them.
Absolutely not. What the fuck are we talking about?
Anyway, so they all went, and then we get this Ruben Studdard cameo that plays over the end credits.
It's cute. It's so 2004 to have him there, but I like seeing everybody, dancing in the bar. It's kind of fun. It feels like, hey, we paid for this set, so let's use it one more time.
To be fair, though, like, I would love to go there. I would love if that was a real, like, bar.
I mean, the fact that, it's Universal, I guess. The fact that we don't have a Warner Brothers theme park with just an entire section of Scooby-Doo, I guess that'd be Six Flags. Like...
Let me set it up. I'll take care of it. I'll do it. It'll be great.
Design the fuck out of that.
I will.
There we go. Honestly, we have provided so many concrete, like, monetized solutions in this single episode. You know what? Where's our payout?
Well, they would use the ideas and then scrap them for the tax write-off, so.
This is true.
I think it's just a thing where, and like, we'll close this out, but like, where, the franchise is still going strong. We're still getting so many animated iterations of this franchise. And with the exception of Velma, nothing has really been geared towards adult fans of the cartoon who grew up watching it since this time period. Well, since Mystery Incorporated, actually. That's what that is. But again, Mystery Incorporated was 10 years ago.
I mean, considering how prolific the IP still is, I feel like it's inevitable they're going to try to do another live action.
And if they do, let me do it.
There we go.
And let me bring justice for Scrappy.
Oh
no.
My God,
okay,
no.
fine.
Yes.
Sorry. No.
I will be the studio head at Warner Bros. And I'm going to say, no, we are not doing that.
Yes.
Or
It's going to be like, Cory, you can do Scrappy, but you also have to bring in Poochie from The Simpsons.
oh God. Actually, even thinking, like, I mean, we could do an original Scooby-Doo movie, whatever, or we could do a live-action version of, say, the Boo Brothers, or the Reluctant Werewolf,
I think
or
about that
the Ghoul
all
School.
the time. I really want to make, and if anyone steals this idea, like, I will be crushed. But I want to make a live action, like, Hex Girls focused series.
I was literally...
Yep.
So bad.
Like,
those girls mean the world to me.
It's called Netflix series, and you just, like, debut it when Wednesday isn't
Exactly.
on air.
And it's the same set as Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and the same costumes.
Oh my
God.
It's all the same.
Yep. 100%.
But it's got to be horny.
Well, it's the Hex Girls, of course.
Joe, we might have to cover, I mean, there's not a lot there, but we might have to cover Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost just so you can meet the Hex Girls.
If you do, honestly, if you want to do a Hex Girls episode, because there's like a couple other films with the Hex Girls.
And they're very queer-coded.
They are. That was my queer awakening for sure as a kid.
I mean, it's a bunch of goth girls, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
They're so
Perfection.
cool.
It sounds like a Patreon bonus to me.
You know what? Yes, that's what that would be. Because I think we stretched our limit. Oh, that's what we did, though. Because when we covered Zombie Island, we double featured it with Return. So that's how we justified that. But anyway. Okay. Well, that is Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, everyone. Cory, as the guest of honor, first, thank you for returning to give us your wealth of Scooby-Doo knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you have any final thoughts on the film?
I love it. I think it's perfectly cast. I think it's iconic and camp. And if you don't like it, you're wrong because it's supposed to be like that.
Okay.
You just don't get it.
I love
actually.
it.
Joe, I'm sorry. I feel like I don't thank you enough for indulging me with these. I know they're not your favorite. I know you don't have a miserable time with them, but I really appreciate you letting me stretch our coverage criteria to cover something like this.
You know what? As long as we have fun, as long as people respond to it well, because if it was just you saying, I want to do this, and then it's like dead
No one cares.
silence, but I feel like this property has a proper fan base, and I think they want to hear you and Cory talk about it, and I'm happy to sit in the corner and pipe in with hopefully a zinger every once in a while.
No, I think you did a really good job.
Yeah.
And the things you liked. It's so appreciative, again, for two adults who are obsessing over this kid's movie.
You know what? Scooby Van forever.
Scooby Van forever. Yeah, I love this movie. I do prefer it to the first film, if only because it really does feel like an episode of the cartoon come to life, whereas the first one is like Scooby-Doo via the Brady Bunch movie, which is fine. This one makes me feel like a kid again, where the first one doesn't, and I think that's why I give it the edge.
That's fair.
But, all right, everyone. Well, before we announce what we're covering next week, Cory, let everyone know, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Gory Cory Horror and on Instagram at _Gory Cory _, and my blog is gorycory.com.
And can you give us any information on your film and the festival circuit?
It's really fun. It features a lot of queer filmmakers, and it's just an awesome horror anthology. I can't tell you where it's going to be just yet.
That's okay.
Because it's still being kept under wraps, but I follow my socials and you'll know.
There you go. That's the best way to do it.
Will do. Well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Twitter and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, join our Facebook Horror Queers group. If you love us, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Or if you love us and want more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you will get 293 and a half hours of Patreon content, including this month's new episodes on Hannibal Season 1, Episode 3, Imaginary, Immaculate, Love Lies Bleeding, and our audio commentary on Rennie Harlan's really fun but really dumb Mindhunters.
Truly.
Truly. But Joe, I think we have to go back into serious things next week, so what are we talking about?
Okay, so I feel like we need to check back in with our man James Whale, so we're going to travel back to 1933 and check out The Invisible Man. Ooh.
That's going to be so good.
The Universal monster with the highest body count, mind you.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I would not have anticipated that.
This is a great movie. I actually think it's my favorite of the Whale films. I know people love Bride of Frankenstein. I do too. I really like a villain, and The Invisible Man is a villain.
Cool. Okay, well now I'm psyched.
But until next week, everyone, we can cross out Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
Like, totally. And cross out Horror Queers.